Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. Just to make you aware, this podcast may contain some explicit/offensive language, and if that's not your thing, you don't have to listen, but I have given you a warning. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
You don't know the half of it, but anyway. I'm skating on the thinnest ice known to man.
He said, and they put a poison in the tank that just instantly kills them. He went and we've run out of it, so we cut their heads off with shovels.
Suddenly, bang! The whole boat exploded.
Take your sort of 8-inch long piranha and imagine that at 4, 5, maybe 6 feet.
I said, I've revived your dead fish. F off, he said. You haven't.
That was just humongous. It was. I couldn't believe what I was looking at.
I'm just battling this fish out and I know it's a black man. I'm saying I'll never be a naughty boy again.
If you catch fish and you return them to the water, then you are my brother.
Hello and welcome to the Nash Tackle Off the Hook podcast. This week's guest, probably the nicest, funniest, most hospitable of gentlemen in the carp fishing world, a man I've been fortunate to fish with on a number of occasions, Ian Russell. Now, before we get Ian out, I've got Alfie Willingale in the studio. Alfie, how are you?
I am very well. Busy, as always. It's been a very eventful 2 weeks for me, to be honest, but I'm good. You all right?
I am good, mate. Very good. Yeah, busy, as we all are. It's that time of year, trade show stuff and all that kicks in. But you've been busy on the bank, mate. You've come back from somewhere pretty nice. It looked pretty mega.
Yeah, it was. And no word of a lie, I'm not, without exaggerating, I tend to be that person who's really optimistic and everything's the best trip I've ever been on. But that was the best trip I've ever been on, fishing and otherwise. Just for those who don't know, we went to Slovenia. Me and Henry for a film production for Nash, which will come out in the future.
Jolly up.
Jolly up. It had its perks. And then, four other guys, Brad, Sam, Tony and Curly as a production team / cameramen. And it was insane. I'm not going to give too much away, but the fishing was great. And as a country, I never believed, I had no idea how amazing Slovenia is. So if anyone's ever looking to go to Slovenia, fishing or otherwise, I can only recommend it. I'd hand on heart say it's probably the nicest country I've ever been to.
Apparently, free beers and free coffee if you're on the bank in Slovenia.
Well, this is the other thing that made it more unbelievable. Not the fact that you got free beers, but where we were fishing at one of the spots was right. So it's right in the middle of this town. So there's a river, like medieval church. Like felt like something off of a TV series like Game of Thrones. I don't watch any of that, but medieval times. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there was a lovely bakery, there was a bar and everything, and where we were set up was fishing in between a bar and a bakery. And one morning, about 6 a.m, we just woke up to the local bakery. He's come out with donuts and croissants, and he's just like, no, I don't want anything for him. Good morning, have breakfast. It's like, what? Like, we hadn't even spent any money. And then the bar, we sat down, we went in and said, are you doing food? Like, sorry, the kitchen's closed, probably because of the time. It was midweek, not peak hours. So we went and grabbed some burgers. We were sitting on the river, sort of legs just dangling over the side of the river. They came over and went, free beers on the house. I was like,
that's mad.
It's crazy. Like, so I cannot, if there's any people from Slovenia who are listening to this, what a country, how welcoming it was incredible. And yeah, that alongside some of the most unreal, ridiculous, hectic fishing I've ever experienced in my life, still making me smile now, mate. I still feel sort of buzzed, and that was, when did we come back? Especially with everything going on, we were worried. We made sure we had everything in terms of COVID nonsense or regulations, in terms of, like, we made sure we had PCRs, we made sure we had lateral flows, because we were just worried you only needed to get that one wrong person at the border and the trip could have been going wrong before we even got there. So the fact that we got there and it turned out to be, the most eventful, enjoyable 10 days of my life.
Get me on the next one, mate. Sounds absolutely mad. I'd be a bit concerned if someone's giving me free beer and free coffee and free sort of bakery goods that they're just going to nick my wallet and turf me in the river or something. But clearly, Slovenia's a bit different.
Yeah, I didn't come back with any injuries, not that I know of anyway. I was pretty tired. I was fast asleep, so who knows? But, yeah.
Our guest this week, Ian Russell, mate. Your thoughts, experiences, because you've been in the trade a while, and he's been in the trade for a very long time. He's got some pedigree. Thoughts on Mr. Russell?
Yeah, so obviously just had a brief hello there when he came through the door. But I remember Ian as a youngster when he was Heathrow Bait Services. So I probably would have been, I'm 28 now, or just about to be 28, and I would have been 12, 13 maybe. And I still remember the Heathrow Bait Services, because I remember I was doing the BYCACs and the goodie bag had Heathrow Bait Services liquid or whatever it was back then, or whatever. I always remember. So it was more the article type of things. And it was a figure back then that was one on the top of the game. Still, still very much involved with obviously.
He's Avid now. Yeah, he's gone from Avid, so he's at Carp, Spirit and Dynamite. But he was at Avid,
in sort of still a big part of the carp fishing scene. But I remember. Would have been one of those anglers in Total Carp that I would have been looking and reading every month, or whatever magazine, craft, whatever it was, and he would have been one of the guys sort of teaching, because I never had anyone teaching me. It was just teach yourself magazines, one of those sort of experiences in angling. So well, it seems bizarre, mate, when you think about it now, like however many years, like 15 years down the line, and now he's coming in for a podcast. I've just said hello to a guy who shaped my angling exactly, but there would have been 100% I would have taken on board something he would have said all those years ago. And you can never put yourself back in the position before you didn't know what you know now. But so very sort of like vivid memories of
it's mad, like Pukka pineapple pop-ups from Heathrow Bait Services and those Indian spice pop-ups.
That was what it was. Indian spice. I think the liquid or the pop-ups, Indian spice. Were they green?
No, that was Mainline did a spice.
Oh,
thing.
Right,
I
okay,
said the M word. Ooh. Accendary will kill me. Sorry, Nash Bait, love you. But I think they did the green ones. But Indian Spice, they were, Heathrow Bait Service was legendary. But he's had some career. He's done loads of different stuff, which we're going to talk about in the podcast. What I wanted to talk to you about, because you referenced magazines, is I saw in Carpology, big love the Carpology massive, a bit about fads. Angling fads, and I've seen a few pictures on Instagram that are relatively faddy, that have been slated, for want of a better term. For you, mate, popular fads, tight rods at the moment, AeroPress coffee maker things on the bank. Do you buy into them?
Yeah, you get all that common scene with a number of different things, I suppose. You got fads in terms of rigs and things, the Chod rig phase, the Ronnie rig phase, whatever it is. But things like the AeroPress, I've just started getting into my coffee. So, but when I mean just started getting into my coffee, I've just moved on from the bulk pack Costco Nescafe that we use here at work to Nescafe. I don't know what it is. It comes in a tin instead of a pot now, whatever that is. Like
that's zero.
That's the one. Yeah, that's as far advanced in my coffee journey as it's been. And
getting there.
I'm getting there. Yeah. So that AeroPress or the cafetiere, whatever the thing's called, like the boys use it. And no offense, I wouldn't know how to use that. I don't know what the difference is, but does it taste different? Do you know what is the difference?
No, it's definitely like you can taste the difference between if you've used like ground coffee, like proper coffee, as opposed to like instant coffee. But I've drank a lot of coffee, mate. I'm like 36 now. Do you know what I mean? To keep me awake, I need like 4 coffees a day. So like, I'm on it. But like you'll get there. It's a progression. It's sort of like any addiction. You know what I mean?
Come back. I'll be on my 10th cup. But I'm usually like 2 cups. I'm a bit of a wimp when I'm like.
It's a good thing, mate.
2 things like
keep it 2 cups. What about folded reel handles, tight rods? Do you buy into any of those, mate? Is that a bit of you?
I personally, with the folded reel handles, I wouldn't do it, but I have absolutely nothing against anyone who does. Do you know what it reminds me of? The original Social when Mikey was at Teliats, and I remember one of the lads saying he had a single rod on a single bank stick and he folded his reel handle, but he was smashing it up. And I think the same thing can be said for like when you have your rods close. I know a lot of people have their rods as close as possible for more that 3 rods on a spot type of thing. Because I posted a photo actually. I don't know if it went in one of our look, but anyway, I posted a photo of like 3 tram lining, and it was just for I think it might have been to show the rods or something like Curly had taken, and the rod tips were all touching to show how tight the rods were. And I'd got a little bit of abuse to say I'd love to see the reverse of what your rods look like, but I was pulling the tips in close for the purpose of to
illustrate how tight.
Illustrate how tight. Well, I was actually behind the rods, but people obviously thought I had the rods that close. But no, in terms of fads, anything like that, it comes down to confidence, I think, and I don't think anyone has the right to get annoyed at what someone else is doing, like as practical as unpractical as it is. I've seen so many people who genuinely aggravates them and ruins their life. The fact that someone else is fishing that has no impact on them, and they're getting angry because someone is folding their reel handle or fishing their rods too tight. And I'm like, so? It doesn't mean you're not going to catch any fish. And so if it comes down to confidence, I'm a full believer of that. Even like, I'm one of these people who say I'm not superstitious, but if there's 3 drains on the floor, I won't walk over them, but I'll go, I'm not superstitious, but I still won't do it. So do you know what I mean? So confidence, however it is, if in your angling, you are who you are. But
what about fads that you have bought into? Maybe at a younger age when you were like looking at influences and stuff. I'm trying to think. I've definitely worn some suspect chunky knit, mate. And I hope you don't watch this because he's very cool and I'm definitely not. Gaz Fairham 1 year wore like a sort of a Middle Eastern like neck scarf in a video.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm all over that, mate. I've got Eastern roots, mate, so I'm going to get some. I had that on the go. I think I caught my first 40 with it on. And it's in the picture. I wore it for ages and then lost it. I need to bring that back. Gaz, let's do it. Let's bring it out for subsurface. That was that was a fad I definitely copied, mate.
Yeah,
100%.
and I think I was never into the chunky knit type of thing. I'm just trying to think other things. I think even going back to the times of Matt Hayes and Mick Brown, great rod race, which I'd watch on repeat. I always remember I never knew what his tackle he was using. He was using, I think now they were emblem reels. He was fishing horseshoe and he was rud fishing or something and then had a run for a carp. And it was just the fact that I saw Matt Hayes using it. It's not so much a fad. It's more sort of the fact that I wanted to use that because Matt Hayes, and that's that whole sort of influencer world that we live in these days. But it's mad. When I try and think back as a kid, you do. And again, you can't, because I'm in the industry now, you've got to try and put your mind in the eyes of someone at a different stage of their carp fishing journey.
Yeah.
Because they take, the way they consume information is completely different. So fads might genuinely be conceived to catch you more fish. Whether they do or whether they don't is a personal opinion. But yeah, there's loads out there. It comes in cycles as well, that, like, you know, with what people use. Like, I think fishing over boilie, I remember when it was throwing stick and boilie. When was the last time you see someone throwing stick and boilie? Like, me personally anyway, I haven't seen that in ages. People fishing over a big spread of boilie and fishing, you know, it's all sort of particles type, but it's whether or not that's just me, I don't know. I just think it comes the me. Same with everything in life, I suppose. Fashion.
Yeah, exactly. It's fashion, isn't it? And it shows you how sort of influential media is with regards to all of it, because you see it go round, you see influencers put things up and you see things take and other things not take. So it's definitely interesting, each to their own. I quite like it, mate. It's something a bit different every now and again that comes in. But I'm not sure that the harsh sort of completely blatant slurring of people's fads are needed, mate, in the old world, to be fair. Just let them crack on.
Yeah, like some, like if it's unpractical, then I can see why you wouldn't be doing, but you know, each to their own. Like, just enjoy your bloody fishing.
Too right. Alf, you've been a legend, mate. I'm going to let you crack on with loads of catch-up work from your backlog after that trip, and I'm going to go and get Mr. Russell in.
Yeah, have a good one.
Big love, mate. Ian Russell, welcome to the Nash Off the Hook podcast, mate. How are you?
Very well, thank you, and it's really good to be here, mate.
Thank you very much for agreeing to do it, mate. It's good to see you again. It's been too long.
Yeah, well, it has, but, you know, everyone's life goes in different directions, didn't it, within our trade, so I'm sure we'll catch up. We'll do some fishing. There you go. We said it earlier. We'll do a day's fishing this winter.
In Essex. We need to, mate. Why not?
Essex.
Generally, though, you've been well? Fishing
Very
a
well,
lot?
mate.
Or
yeah, I mean, I don't do as much as I did because of obviously what's gone on in the world. But the fishing industry has gone bonkers, isn't it? You know, it's just never been busier. The phone never stops with tutorials. I've stopped taking bookings until next, probably March. It's ridiculous. Absolutely. In a good way.
Yeah, but you enjoy them, mate. You're really good at them.
I do enjoy them. We have fun. You know, I sort of treat them differently than a lot of other guys that do them, but that's not putting them down. I do things my own way. I've always said if I'd done a book, it'd be called My Way with Carp, because I treat life slightly different than most other anglers I know. I just want to have fun That's something like, and take the mick out of me mates and take the mick out of me customers. But if you can put people at ease and have fun immediately on arrival, I've never met these people before, they're going to enjoy it more and learn more. So
yeah, mate. Like, I think that's one thing from meeting you is the energy, the passion, but just the general sort of laughter and good times, which is what fishing's all about. Let's face it, it might be a job for us, but it is a hobby and it is something you should enjoy. I think that's always been there. Whenever we've been at the bank, we've had an absolute whale,
well, it's not just you.
Yeah.
Whoever I'm on the bank with, I just like to have fun because there's enough out there that isn't fun. Let's get it right, without dropping the conversation too low. But enjoy it. That's why we started fishing as kids. Go, if you get a bite, fantastic. Rally round, take photos of your mates without getting angry or jealous. But no, I love it, mate. I absolutely love it. I adore it. And I can't, years ago, my last holiday with Debbie, we went to Cos.
Yeah.
That was 2 weeks, right? I'll keep this brief. 2 weeks. 10 days in, I'm laying on the beach like... Debbie looked across from her sun lounger and said, even if you had a rod with no line jammed in the sand, that would make you happy, wouldn't it? And I said, yeah, I just can't imagine not going fishing, mate.
Too right, mate.
We went on a boat with hand lines, with bits of wood that you put the line round, and she beat me.
She beat you? What'd you catch?
I know little wriggly things like that with spikes on, but they didn't last long. They went on a barbecue, and they were really nice, but she beat me.
Brutal, mate.
Don't take fishing.
Debbie, mate's got a bit of... she must have rubbed off all the years that you've been...
well, there was also like a muscle-bound boat guide baiting her hooks through and stuff like that. So he might have actually given her a better bait than I had. But
one of those holidays.
I wasn't bitter. No bitterness.
No, hey, there's some pictures of you in this pod that you'll see muscle bound and looking pretty fresh, boy.
When I was younger, I worked on an asphalt plant for about 8 years actually. And that makes you fit anyway, doesn't it?
There's some good hair in this as well. Which people
major hair, mate.
Incredible.
Major hair. I used to go through tons and tons of shampoo, and I used to carry a comb when I went out. When I went out to the pub, oh yes, you can look startled. I used to carry a comb in my back pocket just before we got to the pub. All that old stuff. You know what I mean? That's how it was in them days.
Go on,
and then the grand entrance into the local pub, which no one ever took any notice of you anyway. So didn't really make much difference at all, did it? So
classic.
It's brilliant.
Without wanting to blow smoke up you in that sense of the word, you have had probably one of the most varied, long, because it is relatively long in terms of years, not in a horrible way, and like incredible careers in terms of carp fishing. Also, as an angler, you are, and I said this to you on the phone, if I had any venue, if somebody gave me like a mystery bag and said, you've got to pick one angler, I'm not going to tell you the venue, I'm not going to tell you the size of carp, the stock, the amount of carp, the type of situation they're fishing in, you would be one of my first picks, if not the first pick, to catch any carp anywhere, mate. Big carp, numbers, like low stock, high stock, weedy, big pits, small waters. I've seen you do it all, mate, throughout the course of time.
Well, that's really kind of you to say so. But, I grew up, my dad started me fishing, if we're going to go right back there, when I was about 8 or 9. And I progressed it in my early teens with match fishing. I joined a club. So that taught me a lot about, there's always fish to be caught, for Christ's sakes, and always take the chance. So every venue I go to, I'm always looking. Same as, the other profiled anglers that are no different than me. Yeah. It's just that I'm older. And I was fishing from when there was less around. So I haven't learned any better lessons than your modern Kev Hewitts and that. It's just that, I've done a list once for Total Carp of 5 names if I had to do what you've just said, pick someone. And it's easy to do.
Who'd you pick?
Dave Levy, Kev Hewitt, Tommy Maker, Nick Hellier, and probably me, I think, was the other one. So, but, I have had a long career, but then I'm old. I'm 60 now, mate. I was 60 a few weeks ago, but I've loved almost every minute of my carp fishing, if you like, career. And I still love it now. I can't imagine not going fishing. Yeah. And I've met them all over the years. Some you upset because I've always been quite loud and quite vocal with my opinions, but I'm also the first one to apologise and put my hand up if I think I've been wrong, But you do meet some colourful characters, but 99% of the people you meet on the bank, you get on with it. It's fishing. Have a laugh. Have a laugh, mate.
I'm going to try over the course of this podcast to sort of conceptualise, big word from me.
Well, I don't even know what that means.
Different parts that make up your sort of versatility over the time that you've been in the industry and also outside of the industry as well. What I wanted to start with, which I think is where the name Ian Russell came to me personally, is a pot of Pukka pineapple pop-ups,
Right, yeah.
An Indian spice
me,
pop-ups
yeah.
with Heathrow Bait Services.
Yeah.
Preceding that, I think I may have been a little bit too young to really know your profile because you were already doing bits.
That's making me feel even.
No.
I'm 70 now.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm coming in at 60. 20 minutes ago, now I'm 70.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yep.
they were mega pop-ups. Talk to me about how you got to the point in your angling and your carp angling that you decided that you'd go into bait making.
I think, like most people, you tumble on into it quite by accident. You know, I was fussy. There was no. This is early days. There was no pop-ups in tubs when I first started making pop-ups, and I was making bags of them on the banks of Farlow's, stroke then the next year Hairfield. I was buying Lee Jackson's, which later became the solar pop-up mix, and making it on the banks of Farlow's and Hairfield in a frying pan. Yellow colouring. I was involved a little bit with Carp Company at the time. I used to own a third of Carp Company in them days, which is a very little known fact. But so I was using their flavours, buying colours, buying this pop-up mix, making them, selling them to the members on the lake for 20 quid a bag. And they were absolutely, I mean, if you look at a ball bearing, once you pan pop-ups, they're that smooth.
Yeah.
And that, I remember Garth, later in years, Garth said to me, Christ, he said, how come when I look at your pop-ups, they are what I want, and when I look at other people's, other people's weren't doing what I was doing, and it just led into a business. You know, the more and more people wanted bags of bait. You know, like you run off in different. It's like a pebble in a pond, isn't it? You run off in different tangents with it, and one of them for me was Heathrow. You know, but I said to you the other day when I started rolling bait, then for other people, boilies, not pop-ups, and that was by chance in Harefield Tackle. John and Sue were running it, Leanne's parents at the time, and I think Colin Booker, one of the Colne Valley bait specialists, whatever the bait company was called, was in there, and he was having a problem with his bait roller. No, I'd never rolled any bait for anyone. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll have a go at that. It's a bit like Boys from the Black stuff. I'll do that. I can do that.
Just randomly in a tackle
just
shop.
randomly said, I'll do that. I said, and he gave me a big bag of bait, and I said, well, in payment for that, I'll have that air gun, a big air gun. I went out and bought a compressor at a builder's yard, put up a double shed in my garden with two of my friends and started rolling bait. And that was really, obviously then I pulled the pop-ups into that.
Yeah.
And I had I don't know, probably a 20 by 25 foot corrugated shed in my garden, pallets as the floor, benches in there. Milky was shutting his shops. Again, this is pebbles in a pond stuff. And some things happened at the right time.
Yeah.
Milky was shutting his happy shoppers. So I had all of his 6 foot freezers. They went in there, mate, and I was off rolling bait.
Jeez, in your garden as it was.
Yep.
That's pretty organic in approach, but it's quite early stages of that whole development, isn't it?
Very early.
So what year? Give me a year.
Oh my God, I'm too old to even remember. It's got to be 20 odd years ago now.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, it was, when did I join Hairfield? In 91. So it would have been about then.
Yeah.
91.
And preceding that, because of the nature of the scene at the time.
30 years ago.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah. You're not that old, mate.
I feel 12.
But preceding that, Hairfield sort of days, bait-wise, was it something that you were always interested in, or was it out of necessity because there wasn't that much sort of ready-made bait around?
Before I got involved with Carp Company, with Bobby, me and Colin Nash used to drive down to Marriages, which is in Essex, and buy all our ingredients and make the bait ourselves. So I had rolled bait, but not for other people. Just me and Colin and my old mate Les, God rest his soul, the fossil. We used to get in there in Les's shed, knock up enough for a few trip, which was loads of 22 minutes for Hairfield, and off we went. So yeah, I was, it was really, really early and messing around with recipes, because half the time you'd mess it up. You'd put too much of this and it wouldn't roll, it wouldn't boil. It was early days, mate, and I loved it. It was experimentation. And getting back to Lee Jackson's pop-up mix, in the end, it was getting too expensive to keep buying it. So I spent a whole winter, made my own, so many experimental batches. And the one I come up with in the end, it involved 11 milk protein, 11 white powders, should we say, milk powders. And it, mate, history tells you it turned out to be one of the best pop-up mixes ever made. But it had to be panned. You couldn't boil it. It lost shape. It had to be panned.
Mad. In terms of your fishing over that time and testing, was it just you fishing yourself, or did you give it to?
No, I had a few mates. You know, Milky still is one of my closest friends. You know, there was Les, Gareth Mitchener. There was quite a few of us. If we jumped from Farlows to Harefield, you know, most of the syndicate were by the end of I come on there as Farlows anglers. Here we go, noddies.
Yeah.
And me and Gary started catching a lot of carp. You know, on 12mm pistachio yellow pop-ups. Thundered out. I'd been shown a rig by Mickey Kavanagh, who I'd met the year before at Waveney Valley. He showed me this amnesia rig.
Yeah.
The big long loop so the rig could move up and down on a swivel, and a great big split shot and a size 4 super specialist. A £10 nylon net. I mean, mate, it sounds complicated, but it's the most simplistic rig you'll ever get.
Yeah. A
black hook link, £10 Daiwa sensor hair whipped on it, pop up and an AAA. Slam it in the middle of Harefield. Running 4-ounce leads, which started off being what they are now, they're called the leads, because we met them at the same time at the show, at the last Wembley show. And off we went, mate. So, yes.
And Harefield, in terms of, I mean, it's iconic in terms of the antics that went on, should I say.
Alcoholic antics.
Yeah, mate. Part of that, were you in and around it, or did you manage to?
You know, I used to fish, excuse me, I used to fish because it was rotated.
Yeah.
Okay, I used to turn up on a Sunday, so I would be the first one. I mean, it sounds quite sad now, but it led me, and it's what I wanted to do at the time. You know, I did have young children, Sam and Lee and Debbie, at home, but do what you got to do. Like, if this is how you want to earn a living, push for it. And I started writing for Carp World, for Tim. That was at the end of my first season on Harefield. But I used to get to Harefield on a Sunday evening, so I would be first in the queue for the Monday morning for the choosing your peg, like a walk-off. You know, it was all effort. Yeah. It was all effort. So, Harefield, I mean, I'm still in touch with someone. I put Jeff Bowers on Harefield.
Yeah.
You know, Bamba. I met so many people on Harefield. But the drinking, I would fish hard for Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Friday night, it was a bit of a ploy. We'd try and get the members that have come on Friday lunchtime to come to the pub Friday evening and Saturday evening. I mean, Johnny Meacham, again, God rest, he was on my rota, so they didn't catch too much.
Yeah.
And then there was the other rota went on, and we were back on again the week after.
You basically scupper their plans and have the fishing for yourself.
Yeah. And it was also awareness to me of how you would pick individual fish that you would like to catch. You know, I'd never been into that. You know, when I went to Farlows and started fishing there, my first big fish, 30-pounder, I didn't know what was in Farlows. We just went carp fishing, us lads, and I caught this in size of that table. To me, it was called the Pet. 34 pound it was, and it was like, what the hell is that? So I had a 17-pound fully scaled fish sacked up, which to me was still a decent fish.
Yeah.
You know, I tipped that out, put this 34-pounder in the sack, slung it in the edge, drove around the shop, went in the shop, and Buzz was working in the shop. I know I'm diversifying here, but you
it's good. I like it.
Buzz was in the shop, and I've gone in like, Jesus, I've got, you know, this fish is like, I've got a dolphin. And he said, right, where are you? And I sounded a pylon round on the riverside. He said, where's your gear? I said, it's still in the swim. He said, get back with your gear, because this was early days at Farlows when some gear used to go missing, not now. Anyway, there you go. We done the photos. That was it was like, Christ. But jumping to Harefield then, I mean, I worked a bit with Dougal in the close season on Farlows, clearing the snags, getting leads out of the tree, getting dead fish out of the snags that were tethered, blah, blah, blah. Dougal made sure I got a Harefield ticket. And then I started looking into what's in there, small pecks, the Willow Common, you know, all these other ones, that Humpy, the Starburst Mirror, and I'm thinking, God, now I'm learning names of fish because this pet had awoken that in me. So, yeah, and I went on there, mate. I mean, I loved it. It was all new to me. My very first cast, Milky paid for us. There was something called Fishing for Friends or something. There was a charity at the time. Okay. And Milky paid £300 for me and him to have a week's fishing the year before we joined.
Right.
Okay. And we had it, I think it was like September. We went on there, and I've got 2 1/4 Armallites, right? £15 big game, 4 or 5 bait runners. I'm Billy Big Balls, because on Farlows, I'm catching everything that swims over and over again. So I'm Billy Big Balls now. Got in the swim, and Nick the Tree was with me, and Nigel, the school teacher. And I said, right, how far is this third bar in? Because I'd read about it. Yeah?
Yeah.
100, let's say 110, whatever it was. It was a long way out. I said, right, I'll have some of that. And honest to God, how's saying I whooped this 2 1/4 Armalite. It went about 60 yards.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's something wrong with is there something wrong with the fishing gear? Like, it was like, because Harefield's 300 odd yards across. We're talking yards, not meters. But it fell on the first bar, what turned out to be. And me being me, I didn't want to look round at them. So I just walked back up. I was in a swim called the Steps or the Longboards. Walked it back up the top, put it on my KJB pod, and the bloody thing went off.
Did it? Straight away?
It's a Chinese, yes. It turned out. I mean, this was first cast ever. Out it goes. Bomb. Yeah, that'd do. Thinking inside, you
Yeah, you
idiot. You look a real fool here. Within 10 minutes, I'm playing it, and it turned out it was wasn't a PB common at the time, but first blood on Hairfield, 2612 common called the Chinese common, which turned out to be quite a well-known fish.
Yeah.
You know, and these guys, when I'm playing this fishing, are like, Jesus,
these Farlow boys are all right.
What's going on here? But I've got to say, I've done the rest of the week and never done another bloody bite. So, but I got into the swing of things for Hairfield. We'd have a drink on weekends. The pub was unbelievable, as you will have been told over the years. The Horse and Barge, probably the most famous pub in the country at the time for anglers. We had fun in the pub. We had fun after the pub, and we caught fish. It's amazing how much further you can cast when you've had a few beers, isn't it?
Is it?
You can't, but in your mind you
like
can.
Have
a look at this, then I'll tell you what. I'll knock him out on the far bank, and you're going about 100 yards. Let's get it right. Rods in the air. You know, I mean, I see of late all this. That's how Jim fishes, with the rods in the air and the butt on the floor.
Yeah,
that was Hairfield, mate. Yeah. That was Hairfield in the early 90s because of the bars.
How did you fare with the bars? Because obviously I've had various guests come on and talk about their time on Hairfield, and a lot of them have talked about fishing past that first bar, having loads of cut-offs, losing fish, the whole evolution of being able to deal with weed, sharp bars, and fishing sort of accurately on them. How did you find all that and your time there?
You just adjusted your you know, I had Extreme Pursuits, which were Rob Malian rods. This is Luton. PM 4000s, which they all took the mick at me because they called them poor man's SSs, the PM. But they done the job for me.
Yeah.
I had £6 Daiwa sensor and £25 what was Maxima Marine Green. I think it's discontinued now. That was my leader. 4 ounce bomb, which were early Danny ones, uncoated.
Yeah.
And this amnesia hookling, and I could belt it as far as I wanted. I mean, I was getting to the middle of the lake, which is about 130, 140. With this and a 12mm pop-up. And then it was a KJB pod, which is a load of plastic, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it done the job, mate. Optonics, and you end up like that. So your KJB pod was as low at the back as you could possibly get it, as high at the front as you could possibly get it, and your tips were bent.
Yeah.
Your tips were bent down, and when you got a bite, it just done, it sprang into life, loose clutch, and all I used to do then, most of the swims had like a cut-off tree trunk in or a barrel. Like stepping stones.
Yeah.
So you'd stand on the trunk, onto the barrel if it had a barrel. If not on the trunk, let it's running and then just slowly slow her down with your finger whilst it's lifting all the line. Now, the first year on there, my first full year on there, I had 22 fish and I think I lost 3 off the top of my head, which was pretty good conversion rate.
Yeah.
You know, and the one I lost, I think, was a cat. I played this fish for 45 minutes right at the end of the year, at the end of the winter, and there was no way that on earth that was ever a carp. I've caught a lot of big carp, and still now I think the power at range was just incredible. And other anglers, Paul Selman reckoned he hooked a cat. There was half a dozen on there reckoning that over the years they'd something that was like a boat underwater, like, you know. So
could have been the mystery big common, mate.
Never in a million years, mate. I'd have rolled a fish over. The biggest fish in was small pecks, little pecks, and you'd roll it over in the middle with the gear we were using. You know, you'd stop them and turn them over. But Hairfield was brilliant for me. I met a lot of people still in the trade. I learned so much about, let's say, helping other anglers. You've seen them, you're moving on them, you're shifting. I was moving in the night, you know. You'd start off getting one of them causeway swims where you could see a lot. And if they were shown at the other end, you'd be moved to stick bar by first light. You'd be in there the next day. And it wasn't skullduggery. You were fishing.
Yeah.
It was fishing. Yeah. I loved Hairfield. We used to go when you was in a swim that allowed you, the throwing sticks were just being invented then, that you could get bait out of it with a throwing stick. You'd bait the granny out of it with these big fish meals we were making at the time. This was just as I was getting involved with Carp Company, or you'd fish in the middle with singles.
Yeah.
Simple as that, mate.
So the bait development, I'll go back to it because I'll take you on a tangent there. Sorry, mate. Hairfield.
Yep.
Romantic, I have
to. I did say that when we started this.
In terms of Heathrow Bait, how did things progress there? Because obviously, from what I perceived at the time, using the bait and seeing the bait being used, featuring in magazines, you using it and profiling it, it was really, really good stuff. Very popular. A lot of anglers got on it, and it was very much sort of a a sort of established company, mate. It wasn't like somebody's just knocking it out the garage and quite small time.
I mean, everything requires a bit of luck.
Yeah.
Now, when I started at Heathrow, it was called Colne Valley Bait Rolling Services. Yeah. Now, I had some flyers knocked up, and a lot of people in the angling world have touched on my business in a way and helped without them probably even realising. I had these flyers made up, Colne Valley Bait Rolling Services, and I had a load of little crabs, put a little comedy figurines put in the corner saying, get on the crab, get on the crab. I'd done an advertisement in Carp World, and Tim Paisley rang me, and he said, Ian, really? He said, unless you take your business serious, no one else is going to take it serious. Now, that was quite a poignant time, a moment for me, from Tim Paisley, who I still regard as the highest respect in my world, you know. So I changed the name to Heathrow Bait Services, living near Heathrow. Scrapped them silly little crab blimmin' things and took it more serious. At the same time, Hassan, Jeff Bowers was splitting from Bamba.
Right.
I'd use Jeff because we stopped buying the marriages stuff. Now, I would, if I jump back here just a tiny bit, this also meant I was giving up my shares in Carp Company.
Oh, so you weren't keeping those shares?
No. I gave them back to Bob. I wanted to do my own thing, but I gave them to Bob for nothing on the agreement that I would get all his bait rolling. So I could roll for Bobby while setting up the Heathrow thing. And it worked for years. So then I got the Heathrow thing. Bamba and Jeff split.
Right.
I'd always use Jeff for my own base mixes to start the company. So I went with Jeff. Okay. Bamba went his own way and kept Premier. Jeff went Active Bait Solutions. So Jeff was making all our base mixes. So it was good base mixes. And I just picked, we'd done Indian Spice, M&M's, which, because, I mean, this is all new. It makes me laugh now. The modern bait game is full of these little shells, dead bloodworm. We were doing this 25 years ago. The little shells, we called that base mix M&M's, micro mollusks. And I filled it full of squid flavour and sold it. And they caught fish everywhere. You know, the frozen bloodworm, we used to get it from Holland via Jeff and sell it. We were paying about £3 a kilo lump, which is what they all sell now.
Yeah.
And we were doing it for about £7.50, you know, out of Heathrow. So it always goes
full circle.
You know, some of the modern anglers now, Kevin, that swear by dead bloodworm. Well, I don't know that it punches as hard as they say it does, but we were doing it 25 years ago, if not a little bit more. But Heathrow gradually progressed. The pop-up range was picked up. I started doing it in tubs under Heathrow. That was picked up by Gardner Tackle.
Yeah.
That was the year I won the Gardner Classic Carp of the Year. So I went in to pick up my prize, which was a tackle prize, met Richard Gardner, and came out there with a distribution deal for Heathrow. So loads of little bits. It's luck.
Yeah.
But in the right time, right place, and having the right, you know, I talked them round, so personality as well. But
yeah, definitely.
Loads of different things fall into place because I totally believe in luck, karma. You know?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's luck. Like I wouldn't say it's luck. I'd say you're always like a very likable character, but you're always a grafter, mate. Like even when you're out fishing, you're a grafter. You'll do something.
I never stop.
I think that, especially in this industry, but in any industry really, if you've got that and likability, you'll go far. But you definitely need all those things. Those things don't always fall in your lap, but if you're doing the right things and you've got likability, you can take advantage of them at the right time, mate. And you definitely have done that. For you, Heathrow Bait Services, in terms of it coming to an end, why are you not still rolling them now?
Do you know, that is a good question. When I started Heathrow, I might be proven wrong here, or someone might say, I think it was us and Solar that started doing them in tubs. I remember Zen and Mainline pop-ups in little bags, and then gradually, now how many bait companies are out there now doing pop-ups in tubs? It's like a Woolworths pick and mix. I wouldn't want to do it now, you know, and in all fairness, where we're going to leap 2 hours ahead of ourselves here, then come back, Hassan.
Yeah.
The company I work for now, they do it as good as I've ever done it. So why would I want to get all smelly and upset my house with squid and monster crab?
How did the missus take it?
What, the making bait?
Yeah.
Well, it soon progressed from the metal shed.
Yeah.
That got dropped to the floor, got rid of, re-landscaped the garden, and I rented an industrial unit in Merwood Farm at Ottershaw, which 6 months later become 2 units. We knocked them into one because we needed a de-humid room, we needed a freezer room, blah, 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 blah. And it just grew from there. Like, you know, I loved it. I really loved it. And, you know, again, we were one of the first to do the dips. Jeff sent us a bottle of fluid by accident.
By
and
accident?
it turned, it was in the bottle, in a box of stuff. Because Jeff used to, as I said earlier, I'd buy some flavours from him amongst various other companies. And this bottle of gloopy fluid was in there, and it was like, I had a business partner at the time, Paul. We were both bang on it, working hard, and I was doing the mag things as well, while Paul was covering the workshop because he didn't fish that much. But this gloopy thing was like, what do you reckon on that, Paul? And we messed around with it, bit of flavour in it, a bit of colour. PVA bagged it, didn't come through the bag. Oh, wow. And off we went. And I rung Jeff and I remember saying, right, I'll have like 30 gallons of that stuff you sent. And he said,
What's
that happening? And I said, dear, whatever it is, mate. And I won't say what it is on here, but we went through tons upon tons. Yeah, this was another good one. A guy come in, turned out to be a friend of mine. He worked at a chemical plant and they had this stuff, right? Now, in them chemical plants, they've got like, I don't know, clear plastic thingies, like 6 foot wide and 6 foot deep. You probably, all the bait companies have them now, the big bait companies, with a mesh around it, and it gets delivered on a pallet. That ended up being a swap for me for 50 a bait. Now, we got thousands of dips out of that. So that was outside the workshop with a tap on it.
Perfect.
Oh, mate.
50 of bait, that's a deal.
Little tiny bits of luck that keep you, that paid, the profit in that weighed off against the small amount of profit in the Boilies. It just, we were very lucky in places and unlucky in others, but you move on, didn't you? I remember we got in touch and it involved Kevin Nash. My business partner went, oh, Kevin Nash is on the phone. We come up with something called a ground bait baller.
Yes.
Now we had it all drawn up. I paid a lot of money to a company in Ireland to get all the drawings done. We got it all back, and they lobbied it to 12 different companies to see if they wanted to do this product. Now, it was Preston Innovations at the time. It was Drennan, it was Gardner, it was Fox, and it was Nash. Okay. And a few weeks later, my business partner, Paul, diddling in the morning. Hello, Heathrow Bait Services. And he's stuttering and stammering, and he's gone to me, Kevin Nash on the phone. I said, what does he want? He said, he's saying he's registered the name ground bait baller, so we can't use it or we get in trouble. I won't say what I said, Kevin, but I said, put the phone down, don't worry about him. And it all fell apart anyway because no one picked up on it. I've still got the drawings at home from the company in Ireland that done all these lovely things. But then again, that's 30 years ago.
Yeah.
And people are only just starting to do the ground bait ball things now.
Yeah.
Ice cream scoops, isn't it? But yeah, it's just a little Kevin Nash story there, but
it's mad how much has come, as you say, like you said throughout your time, especially bait-wise, things come full circle, trends come in, trends come out. We talk about it in modern times about things that people were doing it, like throwing stick in boilies. When was the last time you saw that on a venue? Not in the last sort of 2, 3, 4
we had on
years.
Hairfield, there was a guy, Bob, I think his name was Ahmed. He was an Indian guy, fantastic, brilliant angler. He's passed away now. Bob was on our rotor, and he had a tiny little company called Twilight Tackle. He sold unhooking mats, stainless bobbins, thermal cups that everyone had at the time, with a little lid goes on it. And he was heating up plastic tubing in sand and curving it to make throwing sticks. This is pre-Cobra days. Now, the first throwing sticks that I'm aware of were Cobra, Nina. Yeah. And these were pre that. So we had them on Hairfield. It was clear tubing with a red cap on the end, and you drop your boilie down it, and off she went. That's the first one. I mean, it's great talking to you like this because these are things I've even forgotten.
Yeah,
but great. Yeah, then obviously the Cobra things come around. Now, like we were saying about the sanctuary at Mitch's Lake, I love going there. It's Boilies. Everywhere else you go, it's bits and Boilies. A venue that you fish Boilies and it really works for you. It's fantastic. It's clean. It's easier fishing, isn't it? Simpler fishing should be called it.
It does take you back. I went off the Sitch, RH Fisheries, the Sitch.
Love
Big,
it.
like silty, shallow, but
love it.
Like there's loads of little rud and roach there. You just throw and stick boilies out and fish boilie over the top, and it is like going back in time, but it's brilliant. It's so different.
I've always said I fished it at Sitch quite a lot, and I've always said it's the quietest, darkest, probably the nicest environment I've ever fished in because it's so peaceful. Yeah, and it is lovely. You can wade well. I'm wading out once there, surface fishing in Peg 1 to get near the island with my controller, and Ed turned up, Ed Matthews. You know Ed.
Good old Ed, he's a top boy.
What are you doing out there? I was just running back to the bank in water like Forrest Gump, mate. But that is a beautiful lake, and I've always done well there. It's a really nice lake.
Yeah, nice lake. Again, another tangent I've taken you on. Sorry, mate. But in terms of the bait company, being a full circle of that picture, for you ending that bait company, the right timing, how did the end come for you?
It's going to sound a bit weird. There's 2 or 3 different reasons I can give you for this, but I'll give you the health reason, because the other reason is about my private life. We had massive, great big. I'd split up with. I was going to say I moved on. I divorced from Debbie. Then a world had fallen apart, and I was living with a lady called Susan who used to run the office. My 2 sons at different times, and Sam Healy worked for me. There was about 5 of us who worked there, and the mice were getting in. Okay, it was a concrete building, but the wooden doors with a gap. Now, everyone knows mice. If they can get their head in it, they're through. So I acquired a set of metal doors. I mean, the gap was like millimetres, but the guys fitting them was like lower. It's got to be lower fag paper. Well, one morning we were standing there, and the doors, there was a tiny little gap between the doors, and it sounds a bit strange and a bit holy. There's a ray of sunlight coming through, and that ray of sunlight was full of dust. Now the mixers are going, the pop-up machine was going, and I'm looking at it, think, when you get that, well, you have it in your house sometimes, didn't you? Just a beam, and it's all full of floating stuff in the air. And I said to her, I think we should sell up, I don't want to do this, because I know Jim Rawcliffe had problems with his chest, so he had sold tails up. And I'm looking, and we were flying then. We were doing really well, and there was other big companies that didn't really like us because we were doing that. We were nipping. Yeah. We were nipping at them without any names mentioned. And I think it was the right time. We got good money for it. We sold all the recipes with it, which I'm gutted. I should have kept copies. Although the honesty in me, I just handed it all over, Hassan. I wish I'd now kept copies for later in life, because I could hand them to other, the people I work with now. Yeah, of course. And the old grey matter does wander a bit with the recipes, and you've got to be bang on with it. So we sold it. We got good money. I think we sold it at the right time. Because a year or so later, there were so many bait rolling companies out, or little bait companies. It's incredible, mate. That's exactly what I was going to say. You sold before the sort of absolute boom that was explosion every time. I mean, you go on a corner, it's either a happy shopper shop or a bait rolling company nowadays. And I don't mean that disrespectfully, because cottage industry it's got to start somewhere. Yeah. But we got out of it at the right time. It was either got to expand into a massive thing. I had a machinery guy come over from Germany to try and flog us one of these great big machines, which I see now all the time at companies. So we was at a stage where we either buy machinery, which was a lot of money, or we sell it on. And we said, you know what, we've had a good run. It ain't getting any easier, is it? We knocked it out. Unfortunately, it isn't there anymore, but that's up to the new owners that slipped. But they were good years. I met some fantastic friends. We fed a lot of little companies off of us. Yeah. Same as a lot of companies feed off of Jeff, for ingredients and that. A lot of companies fed off of us. I used to make, I'll keep figures out of it, but I used to make the pop-ups for DD Baits, which was an offshoot of ProLogic. Yeah. And we were making hundreds of kilos of pop-ups for Europe. Now, when that order come in, the lads would be like, oh, no, because we would roll our stuff in the week, and I would give them 4 weekends on the bounce. Extra wages, but that would be a month for 7 days, and we would knock out. Because if we'd have stopped doing hours, there would be no point. There would be no profit in this job. Is there? So we just slaughtered it. So that was for ProLogic. Now, I knew that wouldn't last, because pop-ups in Europe, they were like that. They were 20s and 22s. Great for us to roll, because easy peasy, but it's never going to last, because people in Europe then weren't really heavily into pop-ups. So, you take it. It was, again, bit of luck at the time. You've got to be proud there, though, because that's massively. That as a company, it's iconic. It's in the sort of carping archives forever. But taking a business from a chance meeting in a tackle shop saying, I'll roll some of that, to that is like ridiculous, mate. Well, if I had kept it going, it would be even easier now because of social media. Yeah. Now, at the time, Mark Coulson was Total Carp, Julian Cunliffe, and another guy that, without even knowing it, helped my company grow immensely. I would send Jules, and he'll tell you this, a parcel once every month or every other month. When he wrote about, it was a long drawn-out process then, when he wrote about it in Carp World, so if we sent him the stuff in January, it would make Carp World in like March. Yeah. That phone would absolutely annihilate us for 2-3 weeks, and then it would slow down. But by then, we've already sent another parcel. Yeah. So Jules has got such an influence. The pineapple, our pineapple and Indian spice, he helped immensely, and I've always said that to him. And I love Jules. He's a great, honest man, but the influence he carries is far more than I think what even he realises. So all these people, Tim with the name change, Jules with helping there. You imagine that now with social media.
Yeah. It was magazines back then, wasn't it?
Bang the drums all the time. I'd be this time next year.
Job done.
Millionaires, Hassan.
Millionaires.
We're millionaires, mate.
From bait making,
yes,
which is a skill in itself, people dedicate their whole lives to it. We've gone into some angling that I really didn't associate with you or sort of knew that you did much of, which is foreign fishing and foreign adventures. Now, I've known your recent escapades, sort of Abbey Lakes, France-wise. I've seen that on social media. But I want to go back to your first sort of trips abroad and the angling you've done across Europe. It's not just France.
Well, when I owned a part of Carp Company, Milky had this big blue van. Now, Johan was Carp Company. It was owned by Mondial. Okay, in Belgium. And me and Milky used to do a run once a month, fill the van up with Carp Company products, bring it back to Carp Company UK. Okay, while we were out there, we started doing bits of fishing. And I fished. I went on one trip without Milky, actually, with Bobby and Chris McKendry, who was involved with Carp Company to a degree at the time. And we fished a lake called Mechlin. Right. So this was all new to me.
Mechlin? Talk to me.
Belgium.
Okay.
This was Holland, Belgium. And we would do the night on there, then pick up the delivery and bolt it back. So Mechlin, we get to Mechlin, with all the Carp Company Belgium lads. None of them have got any teeth. They all smoke far too much, and the water over there is not as good as it is in England. But they were great lads. Now we bowled up at this lake. Bear in mind, we got a night. We got a day and a night. Chris McKendry, God rest his soul, he's passed away now, was one of the laziest anglers I've ever known. So he's run through these bushes. I'm here. It's like 60 yards from the van. So then there's a few Belgium anglers. So I said, right, Bobby, where are we going? And this little, I think his name was Henk, he said, over there. I said, well, where? You're like that now? Whereabouts? It was so far away. I was by the lamppost. Well, we didn't have any barrows. This guy grabbed a barrow out of his car. It was like a 9-year-old child's wheelbarrow for the garden. He said, I will help you. I will help you get your stuff. I mean, they treated us like royalty, to be fair to them. So we walked probably 200 yards up this way and about 500 yards down there at this lake called Mechlin. Knew nothing about it. You would wade out about 30 yards in 4 foot of water, and then it went 25 foot. So I would wade out, just go... Again, rods up here, the old Delkims, KJB pod again. And the first trip, the only grass carp I ever caught abroad, I had 2 25-pound grass carp, a 33 and a 37-pound mirrors. Well, you started doing this, so we were going more. Then Holland come into it as well. We went to Home Bait, which is also in Belgium, and done our nights on there while we were out there picking up bait. One of the bait thing, I've got to tell you, so I touched this the other day on the phone. We're coming back from Belgium to Holland, and we got stopped. Now, Carp Company Early Bait, their nut mix was a bag of, probably, let's say they were 2 kilo bags. Yeah. It was like a kilo and a half of white powder, and inside that, I'm looking at these little things here, inside that was like half a kilo of ground roasted nuts inside the inside.
Oh no.
So they've opened up one of the boxes. We're going le pêche, fish, whatever it is. I mean, these guys, they're not like English policemen. They're not like English policemen. They've got skin tight trousers, guns like Clint Eastwood would use, and they are very serious guys. They're not ready for me and Bob laughing. I'm thinking, if they squeeze that bag of nut mix, we're likely to end up in jail. You know what I mean? We're going to be they make films about us and everything. He's cut this box open, he's pulled it out, and he's got this bag of nut mix, and he's gone like that straight away. There's 3 of them now. We're against the van like that, being patted. What? So Bobby's had to sort of loosely, in foreign language, explain. They've cut the bag open, got this packet while they're there. I mean, watching us as if they're going to shoot us. Until they've seen and we've explained exactly what it's a fishing product. But that 5 minutes was like, oh my God.
I'm going to die, yeah?
I'm going to get shot on the Dutch border. I'm going to get shot. But we, from there, we only ever fished Belgium when we've done the bait runs, me and Milky or me and Bobby. Holland, a few of my mates off Hairfield started mentioning Holland. So we would go to Harwich of Holland and spend, I think it was called Grenvelt, the complex. It was a nature reserve which was circumnavigated by a canal system. We're all £20 fish, which again in them days, I don't mind that. We'll have 3 or 4 days out in Holland. It's an overnight boat, which was great fun with a cabaret and a disco and all that going on. And you get up in the morning all blurry-eyed, fishing by lunchtime. It was a day ticket, Dutch water. We also fished, we all caught £20 commons, loads of them. In fact, you got bored catching £20 commons, all at the same, didn't they? So we started venturing on other trips in Holland to the pay lakes, day ticket lakes. Where you used to see quite a lot go on. I mean, you would end up with nude sunbathers to your right, to your left on the other bank. But we started catching better fish, 30-pounders, 33 common, 30-pound mirrors. Mirrors were rare as rock and all stewings. And it just went from there, really. One of my if I jump again, my first ever French trip, I think, was Cassien.
Your first French
I think
trip
it was.
Cassien?
It was 1994. So that's how poignant it is. September 94, I went to Cassien with Colin Nash.
No.
Stevie Briggs, one of the Nash guys. I've known Steve forever, and he's fished Cassien forever. I ruined him for information, and Steve being Steve, it flowed out of him.
Yeah.
And our trip was mostly successful because of the information Steve had given us.
How did you get on? How did you find it? Because everyone, I've never been, but everybody that goes there says there's no place like it. Even now, when the fishing's probably not at the height of what it was, but people always romanticise. There's the history element, Ellis Point, Briggsy being there. There's so much, but people say there's an atmosphere. There's something about it that just captivates you, and you don't want to fish anywhere else. Did you find it like that?
I don't know about that, but I mean, night fishing at the time was legal.
Okay,
I don't think it is now.
No,
you have to campsite it. So as we swung into the South Arm, I mean, it romances it a little bit, Hassan, because it looked blue, and it was like. How big is this? Because you see pictures, and I'd watch a bit of Steve's old footage, but you're not prepared. Bear in mind, my biggest lake at the time was probably Hairfield, at 60 acres or whatever it was. This thing, the South Arm, just went out of sight, and there was this massive bridge that was enormous, like going across the ocean. It was really captivating. We pulled up in the first calf, Gerard's.
Yeah, famous.
Fell out of the van. We was knackered. It's like a 14-hour drive or something, and we'd swapped. We had a bed chair in the back so we could have a kip. Went into Gerard's, ordered burger and chips, which I couldn't eat because I eat with my eyes, and the burger, they don't cook their meat. What is wrong with these people?
What are you saying?
Well, it's all pink in the middle. Them, and I can't. I break a burger open, it's like, what? And there's Colin going, I'll have it. So I had his chips. Anyway, we rented a pedalo. Left the gear in the van. We've gone pedaling up to the bridge. We've had a look around the north, gone up to West Arm, come back, and there's one thing that I'd seen pictures of Steve and Joan on this little island in the South Arm, and like a reedy bay behind it, and another little bay behind that. So we ended up going not on the island. There was someone there, but the corner closest to it, and that would give us somewhere we could see everywhere we needed to see on the South Arm. It was just mental. I'd say we were tired when we got there, but. Ping! You were awake, it was incredible. We only took one double hutchie, the big hutchie bivvy you put the poles through in them, Relum or whatever it was. We put one of them up, 2 bed chairs, got in there with a pedalo, pods up, went out there with a fish finder thingy, which was absolutely useless.
Fish finder? What's
you stuck it to the bottom of the boat, an echo sound thingy
quality.
On the pedalo. Well, again, I didn't realise, this thing was hanging down a bit of cable because it wouldn't stick. But we made good. I caught carp. Colin unfortunately only had smaller fish, bream and a little cat. I had a 36. I only had 3. We've done 10 days. A few of the Hairfield lads come out, and I've got some great VHS footage of all this at home. It's wonderful. I had a 36-pounder. The wind blew up one night. We couldn't get out. So I ended up there was a reed bed to my left. I ended up under arm and about as far away as your wall with double tigers on, flicked them there. Hit the bottom in 10 foot of water. Sometime in the morning when we're laying there like, this is crap, we ain't going to catch anything. I hate this place, never come here again. Wallop, 17-pounder, then wallop the next morning, 21, then wallop the next night, 36-pounder, which was like, wow. And that fish fought like I'd never, clear water, deep water, you're trying to bully them because you're aware there's snags dotted about, Hassan. Just unbelievable, mate. And when we done the filming of that, there was round the corner, the next peg faced a little island that had now been deserted by these anglers. We done some footage in the edge and my photos. There was 2 French guys in a little boat lure fishing. Yeah. And they were going, Manger, give me the fish. I was like,
you're going to eat it?
No. splosh and off she went, mate. But I loved Cassian. I'd love to go back, but that's the market had on me. I remember September 94, bang. That's when we were there, 10 days, and I loved it. We had bright yellow, like fluoro safety jackets. The lizards were like that colour. And I'm saying to Colin, I'm two of them are coming home for my little boys. Sam and Lee were very young. I'm having them. Well, they would sit there looking at you.
Yeah.
The landing there, and the minute obviously you got that 1 millimetre too close, they were like on high octane bloody fuel, like you never caught one. There were snakes. I'm really mad for spiders.
You don't like them?
I hate them. No, I don't hate spiders. I just don't like them.
Right.
I don't want them near me. We're laying on this double watchy thing. I'm on this side, Colin's that side, and I've looked over and it's like, Colin, and there's a spider probably that big, of all the colours on your switchboard there is on this spider.
You joking?
It's like, Colin,
what is that?
Get out. Well, he's hit the side of the bivvy, which would usually make the spider go in your hand and launch it out the door. No, he missed it, so it's fell on the floor.
Oh.
So now I can't. We have to
can't
completely empty the bivvy out. I mean, very quickly and all, and get rid of this bloody spider. I'm so arachnophobic. But everything out the whole thing was really good fun, mate.
Yeah.
We had maggots for the first couple of days.
Maggots?
And he's catching fish, float gear.
Oh, right.
And he's catching, I mean, they've got guppies and everything. It's just a weird and wonderful place. And he caught my first ever experience of a poisson chat. Well, they got little spikes. And I had never seen one. And he's got it on the float. He's got, oh, look, a little catfish. And as he's gone like that, swung it in, I've gone, no, like Matrix moment. And he's grabbed it. Ooh. And then he's gone, ah. Well, in there, mate, it was pouring. So I'm now looking around what we got. Vinegar. It's the only thing we had. You know it, didn't you? Oh. Look at your face, mate. Big handful of vinegar. He's screaming his head off, but you had to do something. I didn't know if it was poisonous or anything, like, but
of course you don't.
Cassien's a wild place, and I really love it. Now it looks like there's a lot more fish in there, and I would, if I had the opportunity, I'd love to go back there and have a week in a tent. So what? Have chill out in the evening and fish hard in the daytime, like,
Yeah.
It does seem there's a lot more carp in it, which is nice that they've stocked it and they've survived.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, but awesome place, mate. Awesome place.
Are there places that stand out? You've done a fair bit in France, haven't you, mate?
Yeah, I've done a lot of pay lakes in France. You know, your Valley Lakes, your Abbeys, Dream Lakes I went to. I forget most of them. I've done probably 20 different venues in France. Some of my best trips when I was working with David Preston.
Yeah.
He got a place out there. And my best friend on earth, Matty Grover, who I fish with a lot, he's a diesel fitter, so he looks after me van and all.
Well, that's all right. Good concept.
But we were going out there and seeing David once a year in the spring. I can't remember where I will try and remember the area he lives in. But there's this massive turbo power station, and it's always got a big steam line coming out of it with a prevailing wind going over these lakes, which... The first time we went out there, we didn't do the nights initially. Stayed at David's house. Let's go to the lake and have a look. We stood there, and within 5 minutes, you're going, oh, hell, what's that then? I've never experienced mosquitoes like anywhere in my life. Bivvy's got set up. We're thinking, that'd be all right in the evening. Go, like, By 10 o'clock at night, I couldn't see out the bivvy. And the noise was incredible. And what happens then? You get a bite. Oh, great, this is, isn't it? I'm out there playing this. We was on a lake. We dubbed it the Green Mile. It was a French club lake. It was a shut-off barrage for in the war, and it was a mile long, and the water was a bit yuckified, but it was 80 yards across. The 20 millers just dropped in the far margin with a throwing stick again, and we're going to muller this place, aren't we? Yeah. The mosquitoes killed us. I had this fish on, and I'm saying to Matty, who's in his bivvy there, all mesh. Give us a hand, mate. Yeah, of course I am. Not a chance.
That bad.
Uncaught carp fight more than anything, don't they? £20 common. It would not give up. Got it in the net, lifted it onto the grass. I was covered in them by now, looked like a pizza. Dropped the fish there, got it, put it back. Other rods in, thrown them in the bushes. I'm now in the bivvy, almost crying because now they're in the bivvy.
Oh no!
I'm trying to swat and kill. 5 minutes later, Matty's buzzer. Give us a no. That ain't happening, mate. I've killed everything in my bivvy. They were some of the best trips we had in France. But after that, we just done the days.
Okay.
And fished these various French club waters with David Preston, who is a lovely, lovely man, a genius, in fact.
Yeah.
He's so far out there with his fishing, it's incredible, mate. We all caught nice fish, 40-pounders, 30-pounders, but we had such good fun, mate. Staying easy, we had all the gear. I mean, his lounge was like probably like your tackle warehouse, gear everywhere, ready for the next day. Few beers, pizza in the evening. Loved it, mate. But Abbey Lakes is sort of where it's been my favourite. I've been going there for like 10 years.
There's some incredible fishing there, mate, isn't there?
Sebastian, who owns it, has always been kind enough to let me go there. And Evelyn, who runs the bookings. I have taken a few clients over the years, which sort of pays the way as well, if you like. But I just love fishing Abbey. You don't know... The fish have come on in them 10 years, obviously. You know, my first trip was very early Avid days. It was the very first DVD. We got there... me and Shuzy went on Fox. Finchy and Nigel Williams went on Heron behind us. Nigel Williams had shoulders, 70-odd pounds. John Finch had one, what did they call it, white tips or something like that. A big long mirror, 65 pounds. You know, these are fish I haven't seen. I haven't seen a fish that big.
No.
I still haven't seen a fish that big, you know, not on the bank. Me and John, well, I had something like 25 fish. John had about a dozen, but to be fair to John, he was flitting between doing the presenting, and it was a great DVD. But that was my baptism with Abbey, and I've kept up that relation. Other than the last 2 years, obviously, because of what's gone on, I've kept up that relationship. Dave runs it now. Dave Smedley, lovely man, lovely family. It just gets better and better out there. The amount of 60s. I lost shoulders at the net.
You lost shoulders?
A few years ago, we always done a winter trip. With I went once with Barry and Terry's dad. Yeah. Went a couple of times with Barry actually, and a few mates. And we jumped into a peg. I think it was peg 17, whatever. I'm in this peg. Two Swedish guys were just packing up, and they'd been catching them at like 10 yards out on a bit of plastic over loads of maize. And they're packing away, and this bloke, I can't remember his name now. He said, "Just Arian." And as he pointed, 10 yards out, one went like that, little tiny head. Now I'd forgotten years before. I said to Nigel, shoulders is that big, but it's got a head that big. Yeah, it's got a tiny little head, like a 20-pounder. And I remember saying that on the Avid thing. I put my hands on this fish's head and said, if it only stuck that out, you'd think it was a 20-pounder. Well, now jumping forward, I've got I fished Oxleys. So I've got a size 10 long shank, 2 bits of core and rubber, got it off the rod, bang, 10 yards out. Set it on the floor, setting me buzzers and all that up, whack, she's away. Hooked this fish. By now, Barry's pumping up my little Star Baits dinghy. Oh, it's like really fast.
Yeah.
And he's through all the weed bed. Anyway, it's done now, and it's at a halt. So no problem. We've done this before. Life jacket on, landing it over the boat, knees around it, drag yourself out. I'm pinging. Barry's on the bank. Obviously, you know what's going on. Pinging from one weed bed to the other. Got above this fish. Jesus Christ. This weed bed, the size of this sofa, was lifted up in the middle of it. Now, last time shoulders was out, I think, was 88 pounds.
Jeez.
It's just
That's
an
ridiculous.
obscene size carp. There it is.
You've seen it.
It's like 2
full.
rod lengths away from me.
Oh.
There it is. I'm dragging the weed near me. I can't get a net. So now I've got the lead core.
Oh.
Right? And this, you know when they're laying on their side, they're doing that?
Yeah.
I'm now on the flank of the fish, trying to pull the weed off it. The net's behind me, the rod's laying across the boat, and it's gone again. So I've let go of the lead core. Now I'm playing the fish again. Okay? I know exactly what it is. You know, I've rubbed it. I rubbed that fish. It's come up about 2 rod lengths away with this weed, and the breeze is blowing the boat away, and the weed's staying there. And I'm literally consciously thinking, how the hell am I going to do this? And the bloody hook pulled. No. I swung it to hand. Well, the hook was now like that from being that. A size 10 long shank and all, mate.
Rig,
just ridiculous as hand. Swung it to hand, laid the thing, and you've just seen this thing go, whoop, and he's gone, hasn't he? I've looked at Barry, and Barry's gone, was it a good one? And you know, like a horror film, when you see the land is going away from you, the boat was drifting off, and I'm just staring at him like that, drifting away from him. But you get on with it. The next morning, the same spot with a size 4 wide gape hook, which is tough as old boots. I had the second biggest in the lake, which was Maria, at 61 pounds. So it paid its dues in a different way.
The complex, I mean, obviously it's been publicised probably more so in recent times through your own angling, but also at subsequent trips and coverage in the media. Why do you think your sort of love affair and affinity with that place has kept you going for sort of 10 years, bar COVID years? What is it about it?
Do you know what? It reminds me a lot of my angling career, for want of a better phrase, has been linear.
Yeah.
Okay, that type of venue. You know, work hard, get on, smash them up, move on. It reminds me of that because you can drive around. Have you been to Abbey Lakes?
Never been.
You can drive around 99% of the lakes. You can park behind 99% of the swims. So as long as it isn't crowded, the van stays loaded. You can drop on them, hopefully catch a few. I mean, if it's crowded, you're stuck. You are planted. But a lot of the time, you know, knowing the previous managers and Dave, if you ring up any room on Kingfisher, can we go and have an hour? Nowadays, it's very, very busy. So I probably wouldn't have that advantage over someone else. But I've loved it for that. You move around, you can get on them. If they move, you can move with them. It was going back to fishing, and they're all beautiful. My PBs from there, which having fished in France a lot it is massive. But, you know, with my friends having fished there as well, another place is 70 pounders, is 62 pounds. But that again that's a dolphin.
That's a big fish.
It's a bloody enormous fish, isn't it? Yeah. So, you know, and I mean, mates of mine have had them big in bloody England, but I just love Abbey Lakes, mate. The commons, the fully scoured. So I've had fully scoured out there, £45 and that, and it's just
there's a lot of dark, like they're
beautiful.
quite English looking fish, aren't they? In terms of they're not pale, big, gutty things. There's some scaly ones, like you said, but they're all quite dark, nice weedy lakes. Sort of, they're reminiscent of English fish in that sense.
They are,
aren't
mate. They are like English gravel pit fish, and you know. Most of my mates have been there. Ridge Monkey done a film there.
Yeah,
various Fox have done films there. I've done a bit with Avid there. You should go there, mate.
I should. Fishing wise, talk me through what's successful.
Fishing wise, right, when I started fishing on Fox, the crayfish were an absolute nightmare. Out went pop up, beep, 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 all up, a little bit of interest. No, the crayfish have nicked your bait. So we went up rubber tigers and plastics. I would benefit there from when I would get there on my own trips, not the Avid one. I used a lot of ground bait on the Avid one on the film with Johnny's shoes, filled up my little boat, literally piled it up with ground bait because I wanted to pull everything in, including the crayfish when I found out what was going on, and then the carp would come because they eat the crayfish anyway, don't they? Yeah. So my trip subsequently from then, I would get there, put 20 or 30 kilos of ground bait out with the boat, and to get it on the same spot every time, right, you're like, how are we going to do this? Because of all these wrap sticks and that.
Mate, sorry, mate. Just
I'm a bit further away.
Yeah, no, you're fine.
I would put a spot on the boat, clipped up, and when the spot flipped out the boat, drop the boat, reel the spot in, and it was laborious, but I would put 20, 30 kilos of bait out there, leave the rods, go around and have a cup of tea, have a wander about, go and have something to eat in the lodge, come back and start fishing, and by then there'd be carp in your swim. But they're eating dust, so they're looking for food. Yeah, you know. So that's really how my stuff on Fox went. When I went on to Heron, I had a week in Peg 12. I used in a week, which was 6 nights really. I used 40 key of and 40 key of boilies. But I had, I think, 18 fish, which wasn't too bad in them days for the amount. I had what is now one of the big commons in there, the long common. You know, £49.12. I lost the one that Johnny Finch had years before with the white, I believe the brown fish or white tips or something like that. That was a mid-50 then. I dropped that. I lost one fish that week and it was that bugger. I was out there with Debbie, and when I would get a bite, it was that weedy. On with the life jacket, Debbie pushed the boat out, and on this one was first light. Yeah, it was in the eye of a storm when it had torrential rain. The rod goes off in the middle of it when it stopped, and I'm standing on the boat, and Debbie said, "Do you want me to push it?" I said, No, it's coming in. It's coming in. Don't worry about the boat. Which I should have gone out in the boat. Yeah. It weirded me up. I pulled it, got it moving, come across the back of the boat, and it pulled. I should have gone out to it. Lesson learned. So you treat the lakes differently up there. Now I'm told the crayfish answers your problem in Fox, so you can boil it. I've done a lot of winter trips on Kingfisher with a mate of mine, Keith. That was all boilie. You know, big at the time. Sonia Bates Code Red boilies. And 15mm Code Red Popups, and you'd smash it. I mean, the odd catfish, but we'd had 50 this, 55 pound this. You know, it's winter fishing. You've got to put up with the Euro stock going behind you. They try every sort of 45 minutes or something, 300 miles an hour. But you get used to that, and it's just lovely, mate. I miss it. I miss it immensely.
You'll be back there.
Oh, I will be. Yeah, I've already got a tutorial book there with someone who's a good mate, Andrew. Next, I think we're in for May. I think a week in May next year, which got put back a year because of what's gone on. You know, so that's in May. We're booked on to Kingfisher.
So for you, carp wise, and I'm taking you back, we've got Belgium, Holland, France, more recent times, Abbey Lakes and pretty consistent. Any other parts of Europe that you've tapped into?
Went to Austria once with Avid.
Right.
Matty Woods was the boss then. And we went to Avid with Arge and a couple of other European guys to make a product film about rods and that. And we ended up fishing on, I can't remember what Christoph his name is, I think.
Okay.
I think it is. It's a lake with a big railway line going across it, lodges, and it was beautiful. Very shallow. We caught loads of fish up to sort of mid-20s. I don't think the big fish were in there at that time. I know the Nash guys have been out there as well since and had some big fish. So whether or not they've been introduced or whether they were there and we wouldn't get lucky, I don't know. But I really enjoyed that. We flew out there, done like 5 nights or 4 nights fishing. Loved the evenings. We went into the local village, sat in a restaurant, just amazing. A great time with great lads. You know, Matty, I've doubled up with Matty Woods. We shared a screen house, and just really good fun, mate. You know, I worked quite closely with Matt. Good times.
Yeah,
good times.
Like, you know,
so yeah, good times. I've been to Spain. Spain we didn't mention. I mean, most people have done the Ebro, haven't they?
Yeah.
I've done Spain probably 5 times. I went out there with Ian McMillan, mate, a couple of times in the winter.
Did you really?
Froze our bits off, yeah, but we caught some lovely carp. You know, not many in the winter, but we caught carp. Just had fun. You'd always have fun with Ian. He's a bloody lunatic. Yeah, but Spain as well, mate. So I didn't get any further abroad than that, really. I didn't get to Italy yet, but I will do.
Yeah, I was going to say, what's the thoughts on sort of travelling and carp fishing further afield now for you? Is it still something that you want to pursue?
Yeah,
or?
I'd like to go to the States. I've never been to the States, and I know carp fishing is quite easy out there, but I'd like to do it. Years ago, many years ago, when Cash Farnham was working at Gardeners, we were asked to do a slideshow talk by the guys that owned, I can't remember the name, it's Specialist Angler or something in Essex. They don't own it anymore. It shut down, but they owned a motel out there and they were involved with the American Carp Society.
Okay.
And we were going to go out. In all fairness, this was, again, early business days for me. So I backed out of the trip because it meant 2 to 3 weeks away. And Cashy went with Steve Broad. And they had a great time. So I would still like to do something like that, maybe in America. Fish the days, do a little bit of, mincing around in the evenings. Yeah, nice. Yeah. So that is it. Other than that, fishing wise, if we get off the carp for 1 minute, I'd love to catch a tarpon and an old perch. They are bucket list, which will may or may not happen, but we'll see.
Yeah, mate. Tarpon I haven't done. Old perch I have done. Definitely do it, mate. You'll.
It's up there.
Big old boilie for one of them.
Yeah.
But I didn't realise, as I said, looking at before, how much sort of foreign fishing you'd done. I knew Abbey, but the stuff before that, they're pretty exciting trips because it's not really known, and you drop in on fishing lakes and catching good fish at the time there, especially Holland and Belgium.
Yep.
One, and you said it earlier, you're pretty synonymous, or have been pretty synonymous with fishing day tickets, for example, linear.
Yep.
I think when I saw you first doing sort of TV media and maybe the early start of social media and up to current days with your 24 that you do for Dynamite, a lot of it is around your sort of day ticket lake complexes.
Yep.
For you, day tickets, what is the appeal? Why not just stick to your sort of Harefield syndicate type fishing? What is it that interested you in that regard?
I keep my Raisbury or my boat pool when I was on there fishing for me. Any sort of work fishing, it's got to be in the circuit. I don't get, I'm not knocking anybody who works for other companies, but these anglers that earn a bit of money from companies and stick to little syndicate waters, why wouldn't you go out there promoting? I love fishing day ticket venues. I like being forced into a situation. The match fishing taught me that again. The carp match fishing taught me that. So you're putting a swim, and now on most day tickets, certainly at the moment, you're literally putting a swim. Now, these fish, these lakes are prolific. Let's get it right. There's a lot of fish in them. And when they're crowded, which they are at the moment, anglers are knocking them about all over the place. So they're constantly moving. So when they come through your strip of water, or yours and your clients, if you like, in the tutorial, it's up to you to try and catch them. I like that. There's a bite to be had. Get the bite. I get really, I wouldn't say get off on it. That's a bit weird. But I really get excited about smashing a few fish up on that type of venue, or catching a few, a better phrase, on that type of venue, keeping them as long as you can, and in your heart of heart when they've gone.
Yeah.
Then you start the process again. Out comes the spawn, blah-dum, blah-dum, blah-dum. The noise brings them back at times, and it depends what you got in your spawn as to how long you hold them. So I really like that type of fishing. I've probably fished 50% of day tickets in the country at one time. And bear in mind, with my work with Total, every month is a different day ticket venue.
Yeah.
And I love it. I really do love it. And I like going to venues, certainly with the filming and the magazine stuff, if we can, it's nearly impossible nowadays, but if we can find a venue I haven't been to, I want to go there. Because I know, as I've just said, they're prolific, but you are sort of challenging yourself as well. I want to go and get a bite.
And I also think, out and out, when you're saying a challenge there, anybody can turn up to a day ticket late.
Yeah.
So there is a reference point for anybody coming to fish it. Somebody goes up there, you've struggled on a video, and they've had 7 bites. They all, whoa, yeah, I've better than that. All comes out. So that's all a part and parcel of the whole.
I've lived the.
situation.
I'm next to. I've lived it on Instagram. I was next to Russell. He had 1, I had 10. It's all relevant. You know, I know how to catch a carp. You know how to catch a carp. If you're on them, you'll catch them. Yeah. If you ain't on them, your man next door is going to catch 10.
On the point of catching carp, you've been on a lot of day ticket complexes. We're going to talk a little bit about rigs and things that you've found and over the course of time. But for you, and you have a lot of tutorials as well, which is another case in point, what are the common errors that you see from guys fishing the likes of your linears, bluebells, those busy day ticket lakes where they're slotting in? What are the common things that you notice with anglers?
Right, what I notice most is... Now I'm in a swim and I'm looking at your man opposite, right? The van pulls up, out comes the gear. First thing is, bivvy's up. Now I don't know how many people are at home, and then they make the little house. I'm not belittling anybody here. It's just, I see this all the time.
Yeah.
Okay. Then out comes the 10-key bucket. Off comes the lid. 3/4 of that will go in the lake. Well, you've wasted probably 2.5 hours of solid bags or stringers or a zig or laying it on the floor. Make the most of what's in your swim. You don't know that last van that's pulled off out of that swim might have put 10-key in there, and not caught anything. So now you're going in on top of someone else's, and you've just added another 5 or 6, 7 kilos to it. That is the most common error I see. Get in a swim, fish it, even if it's for the first 2-3 hours. You can always add it. You can't take it out. You know, if you're seeing them there, a lot on day tickets, the fish will almost immediately move into an area with no lines in it. You get in there, spend an hour putting your tent up, great, there's no lines. Then you start spomming, you're dispersing them again, aren't you? But so many fish by just punching 3 singles out, put your sticks in the ground, put them up, watch the water. You don't need a bivvy until you want to go to bed. Unless it's raining, of course, you know, weather permitting. But you don't need it till you want to go to bed. You don't need a bed chair till you want to go to bed. Fish. You're there to fish. And the second point of that is the next morning. Now, I'm up at first, and Adam Penning wrote something. I love Adam Penning. He's a very, very good friend of mine. I really, truly mean that, Adam. But when we fished the North Lake together, he's writing for Carpology.
Okay.
And I read his. He's interesting. And he put, every morning I got up, I could see Chemo's burner on with the kettle on it already.
Yeah.
That tiny little line meant a lot to me, the effort. And it's the same on day tickets. I'm up before light, kettle's on. Let's say it's getting light at, what's it now, 6:30, say?
Yeah.
By 9 o'clock, half them bivvies are still zipped down.
Yeah.
Unless they've had a bite. And they're not. But that might sound as if we're saying they're doing it wrong. That's how they want to do it.
Yeah.
If they work hard and they just want to crush out and have some beers, zip the door down and go to bed, that's up to them, isn't it? I choose not to do that, and I've fished enough for you to know you choose not to do that.
Yeah.
You go fishing to monopolise the hours you've got to catch fish. You know, by then, I'd have reeled in, packed up, moved, cast out again somewhere else. But they're the common things, you know. I can't knock anyone for going into a swim that's available, because modern day tickets, that's what it's like. You drive around, I'm watching Man Linear, the white van man, same as I do, the grey one though. You drive around till you see a slot. If you haven't booked, the guys let me book for a tutorial because I can't go over a client without a blooming swim. But if you're dropping in, make the most of that dropping in, you know.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, it's a case in point because, as you say, you see all different type of things. There's different motivations for people fishing, but essentially, I think majority of people when they go fishing want to catch a fish. And if you can help them to do that on those busy day tickets, more power to you. In terms of your approach and rigs, now I know you've done a lot on the flick rig. You've done a lot of sort of developments over time, but I'm guessing, as with majority of seasoned anglers, you've come to a point where you're very sort of refined in terms of your approaches. You're happy, and there's not much deviation from that. Am I right?
Yeah.
So talk me through your sort of, if there are any different approaches, or what you go to when you come to a venue first time. You know.
In all fairness, mate, nowadays, and probably 70% of anglers will do what I'm doing. You've got a Ronnie, small pop-up. Now, it'll either be helicopter style or my favourite, which is the lead clip style. The lake bed will differ in the respect that it's either a soft boom or a stiff boom. That will go out. That's your starting point. And it, I know that's a very quick answer, very short answer, but it's a very honest answer. Yeah. If when I went to Rich Wilby's,
Mustang,
no Ronnies, and it's like, what am I going to do? I'm going to hang myself up. So, you revert. So I've got wafters. So now I tie up a D-rig on a foot length of nylon. Yeah, and it wafts down, and you lob that out, didn't you? You've got to adjust where you go. I would quite happily fish Ronnie's there, but Rich would have thrown me off and lynched me. No, he wouldn't. But I wouldn't disrespect Rich by going to his lake and breaking his rules.
Yeah, of course.
So that went out. I've got a wafter rig, if you like, a pop-up rig. Now, if the lake bed is really soft and claggy, then a stiff hinge, which is just a higher Ronnie. Let's get it right,
But flick rig style stiff hinge, or like, or
do you know the flick rig come about? Early Harefield, I used to feed. I bought a mate of mine. I used to see quite a lot of Martin Fox, little northern fella, lovely man. I haven't seen him for 100 years, or probably more. So I was catching a lot of fish on Harefield. Got Martin down as a guest. He had one. I had one. Yeah. So we were joking about this, and we was putting them in the paper, and he said, "Let's make up a rig name." Carp Talk days, and it was him, not me. He said, "Let's call it the flick rig because it seems on Harefield every time you flick it out there, you get a bite." So I started writing flick rig. Then I got a call from Tim, Ian, the Tim. What's his flick rig? And I told him it's a joke. It didn't matter what rig it was called a flick rig, right? Didn't matter what it was. If it was a blowback, a pop up, everything was put just for the papers was put on flick rig. Jump forward 20 years. I'm fishing with David Preston, and I'm losing a lot of fish in France on little wide gate, on a stiff bit like that, and a flexible boom. So I'm sitting there thinking, right, what's the most successful hook I've ever used? And it's a long shank. Or till I've moved companies now, it was a long shank. So I tied up the little tiny bit as short as I could with a size 4 long shank and a size 6. Yeah, 4's a bit bigger. Right, we'll use a 6 soft boom. And on this French club lake, the anglers would probably 1 or 2 fish a weekend. I'd like 25 carp. When David didn't fish the nights, me and Matty were doing the nights on this one.
Okay.
Matty had like 6 fish. I had another one, and I've got to put it down to the. I never lost any, and it really messed them up. And if you look at what we called Rob Marsh wrote a nice thing about what we call the flick rig anyway, because I needed to have a name for it, and I remembered this time with Martin. No one's done this at the time being. Let's call it a flick rig. But you've got a tiny bit of stiff there, then the hook that sits so far over. The bait's almost sitting on the eye of the hook. Well, if you touch it, it's mad, mate, how it spins round. And Rob Marsh started using it, and I read his writings, and he put in. Very few people will give you credit for anything in our world. They want to claim it. And Rob Marsh did write it. Using this rig that Ian Russell calls the flick rig makes so much sense for bigger fish. Bear in mind the bait and the hook have got a very wide gate with very wide gap. So I started catching at linear as well, gone from what they would call the machine, which is a horrible word, doubles, to catching 40s, big 30s. I had 40s out of nearly all the lakes. Over a term, the syndicates, the Manor, 46-pound, Oxleys, 48.10 common, and they were all on this little setup, and I put it down to that. There's such, the hook's here and the bait's over here somewhere, a big mouth. You're gonna nab it, mate. But when the Ronnie come around, like we all think there's something better on the horizon.
Yeah, of course.
I haven't used a flick rig for probably 3 years now, because this Ronnie come around, and I thought, well, that does the job, really, and it catches the doubles as well, and I like to catch carp. So most of the time now it's a Ronnie, mate.
It's a Ronnie.
It is. I know that's being a sheep, whatever you want to call it.
No.
It works.
I use it.
Simple as that. Size 4. What the company I work with, Carp Spirit do what they call a big point.
Yeah.
A size 4, which isn't a massive 4. That, a quick change thing on the Ronnie. Cut the little ring swivel off thingy on the bottom, little ring.
Right, okay. So
I loop it onto fluoro with a nice little bit of putty on there, so you can choose the amount of buoyancy you've got with it. It catches just everywhere.
Yeah, why change it if it's not
it's not broken? One day I might resurrect the flick rig.
What about on the bottom? If you're fishing dead, firm, solid,
Boilie, Again, a nice simple one. I use a bit of our coated hook links in certain situations. Again, if it's really soft lake bed, I'll use a foot of our Carp Spirit hook links, the coated ones, but that's just it's knotted on with German style. Let's call it German rig.
Yeah.
If it's quite hard bottom, I'll fish a D rig with again a size 4 wide gape. It's basically I'll go mad. I must run them out of size 4s.
4 wide gapes.
Just do it, don't they? A nice big hook. If it's a nice hard lake bed, a waft or a boilie on a foot D rig, £15 nylon.
Too easy.
But like you said at the start of this part of the conversation, I've tried them all. Chods I couldn't get on with. I've hooked over the years 11 fish on chods. I've landed, I think, 4.
Really?
And I just could not get on with them. When I was at a lake in Gazores once with Barry Earn, Ronnie Buss and Matty, most of Matty's fish come on chods. Now I'm saying to him, I can't give you like you're having a mate. He said, I'll tie your chod up on a lead core. You tie it on your line. He'll have a fish on a chod.
Done.
Here we go. Brilliant. Matt's tied that, and I've just seen him land about 5 fish on it, on a similar setup. First bite, got it in the edge, fell off.
Really hot hook pop.
Cannot explain it at all. I had a big fish once out of Pingewood, one of the big commons out there when I fished there. I thought I will try the chod.
Yeah.
Out it goes, midnight. I'm playing this fish thinking, oh my God. It made the net, and it was an upper 30 common. Made the net. As it made the net, out come the hook, which saved me unhooking it. It was almost like that, the hook. And it was like, do you know what? No more. I'm not. I'll use if I need to fish on top of weed. I'll make a hook link that long.
Yeah, longer hook lengths.
A soft hook link or a lighter nylon if the situation will allow it. But I'm not. I can't touch chods. You know, I'll have a stiff hinge with a soft but heavy, a supple but heavy soft boom that long if I have to.
Yeah.
Little bit of PVA nuggets on the end to hold it to stop it tangling. Stop it. Boom.
To be fair, that's me over recent years because you can tight line to it as well, can't you? With the leg clips, which is quite nice. But I know that, I've caught a few on chods, mate. You should try the old flick rig chod, mate. I think that's got to be done.
Friends of mine have, and they do really well on it. I mean, because of when the hook is thrown right forward, it imbalances. Literally, if you touch that little bit at the bottom there, I've never seen a rotary rig go as fast as that does.
Bring it back.
Bring it back. Let's resurrect it. I'm going to try that. No, I'm not. Where am I going tomorrow? Willow Park tomorrow, so I won't be using the flick rig there.
Willow Park, what a place, mate.
Yeah, tutoring tomorrow. I love Willow Park. The fish, got to be said, they're amazing, aren't they?
Yeah, I love them.
Probably 50% of them are fully scaled and 20s.
Yeah.
75% of them are £20 fishing in Willow Park. It's an amazing little day ticket lake.
Oh, I fished it a few winters ago with Rob Hughes, actually. Yeah. It's a good one. Good on zigs as well in the winter.
Yeah.
Very good.
I've bashed it up on zigs. I had one of the big ones out there on a total carp thing not long ago on a zig. One they called a Princess, 29 odd, fully scaled. I think it's called the Princess anyway. Fitting. Lovely fish though, mate.
Mate, you caught a few, haven't you, boy?
Yeah.
You said UK PB wise, where's that come from, mate?
UK PB, right. We'll talk about a common first. Yeah. That's the Oxley's common. Now, when I caught that, this is a 5-minute story. I'd fished quite hard throughout the winter with not with Tom, but Tommy really wanted it as well. Tommy Maker.
Oh, legend.
Now, I've known Tom since he was about 6, so I used to sponsor him with Heathrow. And do you know what? I didn't see Tom for years. No, he's a lovely, I'm going to call him a kid. He's a lovely lad. I didn't see him for a few years. I know him and his dad Andy very, very well. Close personal friend. And then I met Tom again, and it was like, did I used to bully you? You know, he's now 6 foot high. But we fished the winter. So was the Apache on there, Steve Cliff.
Yeah.
We all wanted this, and Russ Guys. So we're on there anyway. I'm on there the back end of the year. Flat calm, horrible conditions with a client called Nigel in one of the big doubles, right? I know you haven't asked this, how I caught it, but I'm going to tell you because it's great.
I like it.
Fished all day, solid bags, nothing has shown all day. Russ Guys is opposite, the Apache's to my left. Well, Tom's not there then. Anyway, just on dark, 4 fish showed to my right, and I said to Nigel, do you want to be? He went, nah, go and stick it on it. So I put 2 bits of rubber corn and size 10 long shank, straight in the hole, bang. Gone to bed, foggy night, had a nice social. First light, that rod's gone to the floor. So I've run down to the rod, and it's first light, I said, still a little bit dark. Bobbin's on the floor, head torch. So I've run back to get me head torch. This is crazy, mate. Having done 2 winters, crazy. So I've run back, Nigel said, you in? I said, just get me head torch, mate, a little drop back. Usually they belt off. Pick the rod up, he's still in bed. Started really nice. It's only a little one. He said, I'll get up anyway. And he's got a torch like that beam there. It's like to scan your head like that thing. It's a little bit misty, and he's scanning the surface. And about 50 yards out, this big long thing No fight in it. Now this, I should have known then, because 3 or 4 of my mates have caught this and it never fights. It all the way
Wallows,
on the surface. And I've seen this thing and I thought it must be a mirror. I said, big long thing, up to 20 mirror. 50 yards. It's like a helicopter spotlight, yeah. 30 yards out, he said, I don't know. He said, I think that it might be a common. I said, no, don't be bloody daft. There's only one in here over £30, which there was at the time. So for 3 seconds, dismissed it. 20 yards out, he went, nah, it's not something out of a comedy film. Nah, it's definitely a common. And I'm looking at him, I said, right, hear me out. If you, this netting, if you mess this netting up, you ain't getting a Christmas card, mate. Now we can see it, broad as daylight.
Oh, no.
Little look. And it wobbled all its way in, never moved, never deviated, all the way in like that in the net. All right. So now
in the net,
straight in the net. All right. So we've got it.
Job done.
Rod on the floor. I'm leaping about. I know what it is because only it's only 50. This last time that was £50. So I'm leaping around like, right, hang on. So I run next door to the Apache. Steve Clip is so lovely, mate.
Yeah.
The same thing happened when we fished Unity for the big common, and I caught the bloody thing before Stevie did. But anyway, I run round. His bag's over his head. I've sat on a bed chair. I've gone, oi, up. He said, what? Bit of language involved there, Hassan. What? I said, I've had the bite. He said, I don't actually care. It wasn't quite that. If you've had a bloody bite, I said, you're not listening. I've had the bite. No way! And it was brilliant, mate. So we're back in the swim, loads of noise. Russ has phoned opposite. So, what you got? Oh, I said, well, yeah, boy. He said, I've had 330s. I said, oh, is that all? He said, what do you mean that all? I said, I've had the bite. Again, he's gone, you've had a bloody bite. He said, oh, you've had one bite. I said, no, I've had the bite. Because he lost that fish the same day the year previous from the swim he was in. So anyway, the crowd gathers. I let them weigh it, 48 pound 10 ounces. And there are the pictures, mate. What an immense, and the unhooking mat was a prototype for Avid. You know, like they all do now. There's a lot of
cradley job,
cradley top thing has. And so when I packed up later in the day, I gave the unhooking mat to Russ and said, the next fish that goes in that will be that again. Don't use it until, and he didn't use it, and now the fish has passed away, so he can use it now. But that's my PB common in England. I've had plenty of 45s from Lee's, and and the 46 from RK, and 45 from Rapey, but that one, and it's an old character, wasn't it?
Oh, mega.
Oh, mate, big smudges on it. It survived 2 almost complete wipeouts, so, but Mirror, that's a different kettle of fish. We went up filming up to the Avenue.
Yes.
And I had no idea what's in there. I'm fishing with Johnny Finch's opposite. Chris Lowe and Johnny Shoes are there filming all day. Got there. I've whacked him out on this gravel bar. Boom, I got one. Bloody hell. I didn't think it was going to be this easy. A 20-pounder.
Yeah.
Whoop, got another one. 16-pounder. Then it all died. Gone through the night. Put a bit of bait out on this central gravel bar. Done our filming. Just before first light, I had a 39-pounder called Baby Rhino.
Nice.
So I've left him in the net.
Baby Rhino.
I've got a great shot of these 2 nets that I'll have to send you. It ends up there's 2 landing nets. Anyway, Baby Rhino is now secured in a net with a rod laying across the top of it. That's handy, isn't it? I won't move the other rod because it's still out there. 10 minutes, that's gone off. Now I'm playing these fish. Johnny Finch has walked around from the other side. I can hear him crunch, crunch on the gravel. And this fish has rolled, and I said to him, bloody hell, what's that? And he's like, I said, you've had a lot of big fish in France, bigger than I have, John. What is that? Johnny Finch, to this day, he went, oh. I said, what do you mean? Oh. I said, what is it? And I didn't know there was a fish in there called Jonah, which was, and again, just beyond belief, mate.
It ain't going to be small called Jonah, is it?
Mate, Ting Tong had it and a few of the other guys. Anyway, played this fish around now. I can see it all. And he's like, bloody, you're joking. Got it in the net, 57.5.
Oh,
so I got a lovely picture of the 2 nets, right? And until you know the one in the left net is 30, just under 40 pounds, you ain't got a clue what that one is because it makes it look like a double. But when you know that then is just under 58 pounds, like, you think, bloody hell. And that to this day, Rob's Waters, love them. I've fished all the Rob's Waters, only fleetingly because obviously I'm not involved with Avid anymore, and Avid used to get the card. I would love, I love the Sitch, which is Ed Matthews as well.
Yeah.
Got an opening invitation for the Sitch. I love it. Their waters, they're so quiet and so nice up there.
I've been lucky, obviously being northern now, I go down to them a fair bit and they've been absolute top lads, Rob. But like, he's got the Mere opening, Acton, but Acton is one of the most stunning lakes. You like his portfolio of lakes, they're absolute beautiful places.
Crazy lakes. They're all, like I say, the Sitch is probably the most perfect. Yeah. If they dug that out to 6 foot deep, bear them on a southerner and put gravel bars in it, that would be my perfect lake. Yeah. But above the surface, it's just lovely, mate. And look at that the crazy hunting lodge. Yeah. I've got pictures of that as well, mate. That is just like something out of Hansel and Gretel, isn't it? It is, though, isn't it? It's really crazy, mate.
Yeah, crazy place. Mega fish, it's £57. Yeah, it's a big old unit, isn't it?
So we phoned Rob, as you do, John. Well, I went up to John and I said, mate, I know what I've caught, but it's enormous. Shoesy. He was 50 yards to the left of me. And he said, he's got his legs out of the sleeping bag now and he's putting his trainers on. And he said, two-tone on one side. I said, yeah. And mate, it was like you'd had an injection of some Duracell battery. He went, Jonah! And he's running around the grass. Johnny, I love Johnny's shoes. He's like you. He's full of energy, mate. Jonah! And I'm still standing like, what is Jonah?
Are you all right, mate?
You all right, Jonah? Well, sit down for a minute. But I didn't know. But yes, we strung her up, got her out. Me and Chrissy Lowe weighed it. Got all that. We had Jason Umley on camera. Christian, who was the German lad, was over with us. Just wonderful, mate.
Yeah.
And there was a team. In them days, it was a team. Everyone, there was no... It was a team. John Finch walked round when I was playing the second fish because he pulled his rods in, come round.
Yeah.
It's just great. Yeah. My second biggest mirror is an RK, £48 again from K1, but Jonah.
We're definitely going to touch on the RK complex, mate, because you always do pretty well on there, but you've had some fish out of there, mate, very consistent. One element that I wanted to talk about, again, another versatile side to you as a carp angler in the time that you've been involved, is match carp fishing.
Yep.
Now, it started a long time preceding sort of TV. Most people, maybe the younger audience, would have seen Carp Wars that was televised.
Yep.
But there was Battle Carp in the magazines, head to head, with some of the top names in angling.
Yep.
Then there was Carp Wars at Crafty Carper, which again is head to head with another angler, but magazine coverage.
Yep.
And then into TV work.
Yep. Talk
me through how you signed up or got involved all the way back at Battle Carp days.
Right, Jim Foster days this was.
Yeah.
It had changed from Catsmore Carp to Total Carp.
Yeah.
And then the sales went through the roof. Jim is one of the most energy-filled, I wouldn't say strange, he's just an amazing guy to work with. So thoroughly professional yet funny. I mean, did you know Jim?
No, I don't know him personally. Everybody that's ever talked about Jim says he's mental.
He's mad. He's completely bonkers, but in a nicest, lovely way. He rang me one day. This was when I still had the shed in the garden making bait. And he said, yeah, Chemo. Not a nice nickname, but Chemo. Do you want to get involved in this series I'm going to do? It's head-to-head, one-on-ones. And he said, I'll tell you what, go to... It was Jimmy Howson's I was going to be going to. He said, first round to Jimmy Howson's, you against Milky... Go there on a Friday because I'm taking my girlfriend out on a Friday, fish the match. I'll turn up Saturday lunchtime and do the final bit. I said, tell you what, mate, if you're going to take it that serious, jog on, put the phone down. Because he should have been with us.
Yeah.
About 2 months later, we rang again, Jim. He said, here, Chemo, this Battle Carp. He said, listen, I was a bit out of order. Do you want to go and fish it? And I said, yeah, I'll tell you what. My business partner, Paul, was involved with Heathrow. And Paul said, I'll have a go. So we done the very first Battle Carp on the Blue Pool. And I only caught one fish, but it was enough for me to get through to the next round because you started off, let's say there was 16 anglers and it obviously worked its way to the final two. And I loved it, mate. I fished in the first one, mate, the names, I don't know, I fished against Lee Jackson, Derek Ritchie. These were people, Ronnie Buss. These were people that I had and still do look up to. But I had the energy level, mate, I was going to say, I never stop.
How did you approach that? Did you approach it in a because you are competitive. We're all competitive, but did you approach it in a competitive sort of all-out manner, or did you sort of have a bit of a laugh and whatever happened? Well,
the thing with me is I will be paddling like a lunatic beneath the surface, but I'll have a laugh on the surface. So just because I'm having a laugh with you on the lake doesn't mean to say I'm not trying to work it out whilst watching what you're doing. he's doing and what them fish are doing. So I attacked it full on whilst enjoying it. And I don't like losing. I hate losing. I'm one of the most competitive people you'll ever know inside. But while I'm having a laugh with you. Okay, yeah, well done. You've had 2 fish, I've had none. I'm really pleased for you. Not really, no, not at all. Not in a competition. Why would I be? I hit the ground running, mate. And obviously the first series, the first series, I ended up on, it's mad again how people fall into your life. I'd known Johnny Shoes from Horton.
Right.
Long before Avid Days. Long. And I ended up in the final against Johnny Shoes on Oxley's.
How did that go?
Do you know what? It was touch and go. I went there, I'd fished Oxley, so had John.
Yeah.
And in them days, the fish were, if you got a 20, it was amazing. They were like 12, 13s. I hit the ground running. I was on, I've got the mag things at home. Let's say I hit the ground, I had £100 of fish before I even knew what was going on. You know, little method feeders and little bags. Then the fish moved in front of John. Now, I probably ended up, I was on about 150, 180 pound. John's now catching, and there's nothing I can do. This was the same double peg that I had the big common from years later. Nothing I can do now, they're not on me. Yeah. They've moved to John and left of him. And I'm thinking, now I hate this. I've gone probably 12 hours in a 24-hour match where I can't do anything. I'm trying to nick an odd bite. Nothing. John's now crept up. He's like 20 pound behind me. And I'm thinking, no way, this is the final. I'm not doing this. The bloody wind changed. They came up past John, and now, because where I'm on that first big double, if the wind's going that way, I've got all that, haven't I?
Yeah.
He's to my left now, and I ended up doing him by about 120 pounds. That was in the final of the first one. It was just, which fired me up for the second one. You know, but I loved it. You know, Lee Jackson, all these guys, honest, mate, I shouldn't have beat half the time, but I will not go to sleep. I do now. I'm too old. But, you know, when I see the youngsters in the matches now saying I understand and respect their energy levels, I would not go to sleep. If there's fish to be caught, I would be trying. I'm glad they're only 24-hour ones.
Yeah.
Because I'd go through, mate.
Killer.
When I fished the second year's semi-final against Mike Winston and Ian McMillan and Steve Fantuzzi couldn't make it, he broke his leg or something, I was spodding nearly continued. If I was awake, I was spodding, called a spod. Yeah? And Mike Winston come round. He was in the next peg, and then Ian McMillan. And he said, will you please stop spotting? Now, Mike Winston, fantastic angler, and Iron Mike, you know, so I'm not going to diss him. He caught a duck on the surface. I had to go around and help him. Ian McMillan caught one fish off the surface, okay, and I had about £200 of fish. Again, this is Heathrow days, Hassan, so I'd got this mix right. Big maggot bucket, which are them big white ones with the red lids on. I'd put 25 or 20 kilos of trout pellet in my cement mixer in the workshop. So I'd lived to all this, access. In went a gallon of salmon oil. In went some hemp oil. In went 2 bottles of oyster sauce, the brown sticky stuff, and a couple of kilo bags of crushed dried hemp and a kilo bag of crushed dried, it was called mysis, which is crushed dried shrimp from DD Baits, from ProLogic. They all went in. Dustbin lid on the top, leave it there an hour while we're making bait. At the end of that hour, it was all glistening, no fluid. You could do that. So I could pack a spod without the spod spill, probably twice as much as normal. But when it hit the water, it went poof. Okay? So this is also the start of your up and down mixes. Yeah. Because the pellet was obviously claggy, would tumble down, unfolding on the way down, and the mysis would be coming up and down. With the oil would help it float as well, but then it would be getting mobbed by the seagulls. So it was also a good zig mix. Now that's what I used all through the Carps, Battle Carp 1, Battle Carp 2, and Carp Wars. It never let me down, mate. I never lost any of them, not one single round through the entire lot.
How many matches is that?
Lots.
That's
loads. I don't know. I think I ended up on about 40 matches that I hadn't lost, one-on-ones. At some stage.
That's incredible because they're spread out, as you say, pedigree of angler is unbelievable. They're spread out over loads of different types of venue. I mean, they're all got enough for a good head of fishing.
They're all but prolific lakes, because otherwise you wouldn't have a match, on a lake with 10 fish in it. But one of the best, I was with Derek on Old Berry Hill.
Old Berry Hill,
over behind the island. We were at each end of the island. Now I won the toss. I know the lake, so I've won this end of the island as you face the house behind it. 20 mil boilies. Just keep feeding them. Keep feeding 20 mil. I nearly broke my blooming arm. I'm catching. One rod to the island, one off the tip of it, 20 mil boilies. Derek's catching nothing. David DeVere walked round in the evening, the owner, and he said to Derek, why aren't you fishing over there to the pads on the far side? Which was, I knew, I could hear it, and I'm thinking,
oh no.
No way, don't. And then Derek being Derek, banger on the wanger and all that, the orange, yellow pineapple wanger.
Yeah.
And he was catching up. But I ended up doing about £50. I had a £25 common. Johnny Bones got in. Johnny Bones was the reporter. And he got in because I'd only caught, like, they were sort of mid-doubles.
Okay.
Misty morning, he's in the water, he's beyond the fish. I'm playing his fish because it's only shallow there. I'm playing his fish. And I said, right, if this comes off because you're standing there, it's a £15. And he said, yep, no problem. It would be because of me. And it surfaced. And it was what in them was the biggest common in there, 25 odd. So it was like, John, get out of the way.
This ain't coming off,
This
mate.
ain't coming off, mate. So, but I loved the matches, but I hated them.
Yeah.
When I fished the second series, I loved it. And God, you know, Ian McMillan's now passed away, and I love him totally. We ended up in the final together on Fort Lee.
Yeah.
To me being me, God rest his soul, I know the Lake Fort Lee, and to be fair to him, he didn't. So if there's an island in a swim, it generally draws you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So when I got there in the van, parked behind the swim, I sat behind the swim I didn't want, which had the island in it.
Okay.
I think Ian McMillan's come up. He sat with me, big cuddles, big smiles, whole hijinks. And I said to my Mrs. Sue, I said, so Ian Kadir, this is the one. This is the one. Now, I knew he heard, so now he knows this is the one, right? Flip the coin, Ian wins. I'm in here. So I jumped to that first one. You go in the car park in front of you, which has got a plateau about 90 yards out. No island, which also cuts you down.
Yeah.
Mate, I walked it. It was horrible. But I'm so competitive, aggressively competitive. Every time I heard Ian's Delkim, I hated him. And I don't like that. I don't like that in my fishing. I really don't like it. But shooting has got me out of that on a different thing. But I hated it. And when I spoke to Ian at the end, he said, every time I heard your bloody bite alarm, I really didn't like you. I don't want to do this again, Ian. Not against Ian.
Yeah, of course.
So
It's
I
the
didn't.
nature
I
of the
didn't.
competition,
I
isn't it?
enjoyed winning, but I didn't enjoy doing it against Ian. Who was at them times. Ian was. We were like brothers, mate. You know, we fished everywhere. He helped me in business. I helped him in. You know, so that side of it I didn't really enjoy, but everyone else I loved beating. It was great.
Everybody take it pretty well? There was a lot of ego about? Was it all right?
Not really. It's not like there wasn't big money.
No,
you know, big money's come into the BCAC. It has to. It's a progression. But if you took that out of it, I mean, also with the BCACs, we've had it all over the years. You've had cheating. You've got gear that shouldn't be getting used, which is a totally different subject. But you know, it's like it was fun. Carp Wars with Lewis Porter. This was Lewis at Fox now.
Yeah,
Lewis's
crafty.
brainchild at Carp Wars. We got a list. Initially, it was like me against. My first one was Mick Barnes.
Yeah.
Which I will send you a photo of. Old Berry Hill. But then Lewis changed the format of it and encouraged readers to write in. So it was me and a reader, and my competitor and a reader, and that was Ronnie Buss, Andy Maker, Ian Chilcott. You know, these were good anglers. I mean, Andy Maker. Jesus, when I was up against him, I'm thinking, I'm absolutely buried here. But we came through. You know, that was on B1, Zigs, and I was getting on black foam. And to be fair to Andy's naivety, and he is a wonderful bloody angler, he didn't have any black foam. So you asked Lewis Porter, he was cutting bits of black foam off Lewis's camera bag handle.
Yeah.
You know, it was like a Duplon handle, the foam. He was cutting it off of there. I fished against Shilly on B2 in the winter with his subsequent partner. Nothing was happening. And this is where luck come into it, Hassan. We were sitting in the first one, which is now the disabled on B2. I'm there, Chili's to my left, we've got our partners with us. Nothing's happening. So Lewis is like, no, we need a fish. So we walked that little bit, I pulled them all in, walked a little bit of ground to B1, and they were jumping in that corner.
Right, yeah, I know.
So we done the toss. No, we hadn't. We'd left our clients, if you want, our punters, were in the swim watching our rods. So we flipped a corner in that swim. Chili won the left. So he's on the fish. So Lewis said, come on in, let's get moved. As we walk back into my swim on B2,
what?
off goes a rod. In comes a 10-pounder. So when, we can't move now. I've had a fish.
Oh,
Let me move. We can't move now. I've had a fish.
He's just picked a flyer as well.
Mate, and Chile had... So it was like, and I don't know where me and this fella had half a dozen, and Chile had nothing. It's just one of them things, isn't it? So, like I said earlier, sometimes she do shine on you at the right time.
I don't know, mate. To be consistent in winning, in winning sport, you can just be really good, but even the best sort of don't win all the time. You look at tennis or any other sport, it happens. There's very few that can go sort of that long without being unbeaten in some regard. But fishing is even more impressive because it's out of your control, mate, a lot of it, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is. But do you know the most unlikely person on the planet was the first person to beat me?
Who?
And I love him dearly, and so do you.
Who?
Lewis Reed.
Lewis Reed.
We went to, it was a typography, it was called a cricket carp fishing. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
Not carpology. Sorry, not typography. Carpology with a magazine.
I don't remember cricket carp fishing.
There was a young lad who was the reporter, and he's got long gone now. We ended up on a little tiny lake in Essex for a day session. And it was about, you start with 3 rods. If I caught a fish, you pull a rod in, lean it on the tree. If you caught a fish, you can put your rod back in and I lose one. It was that sort of thing. Yeah. Well, I got straight away at a 25-pounder and we're cutting off at 6 p.m. 25-pounder, Lewis has had one. It's on amount of fish, not necessarily the weight.
Oh, okay. So
unless you're drawing, then it goes to aggregate, right? So I've had a 25 and an upper double by lunchtime. Lewis has had 2 doubles. We come into the end of it and we're sitting there chatting and we cut off at 6 o'clock and Lewis will know this because it's wrong, okay? So at 6 o'clock, we're chatting away, not realising the time's gone by, and I said, well, I've never lost, so we've got to do this on aggregate. A 25 and an upper double is more than 2 doubles.
Yeah.
So beep, Lucy's bloody rod goes off. And he will tell you this, honest to God.
After the buzzer?
I was absolutely devastated, should we say. He's got this fish on, and we had a base level of £5, but we're after the time. So I'm saying to this reporter, no way does this fish count. We finished 20 minutes ago.
So the fish to count has got to be £5 or over.
Yes.
The time's gone. So you're going, regardless of whatever that is, mate, this ain't happening.
This match is finished.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lewis is going, Chemo, I'm going to fish on. And I wish I could remember this lad's name. Anyway, I can't. He's netted his fish and it's like that big. Or it's in my mind, it was that big. It was £6. So I said, well, it doesn't matter what it weighs. We're after the clock. You can't do this. This is the final of cricket carp. And this young, I think his name was Josh, he said, no, we're going to count it because we need a finish. I said, well, you've got to finish. Aggregate. We either call it a draw with 2 fish each or I win on aggregate. No, that's it. So I love Lewis. And months later, we was at Barry Hearn's barbecue, his annual barbecue. Lewis was there. And my missus is with me. And obviously I've gone home and, I've lost. And I've all the people to lose to. That doesn't mean Lewis isn't a fantastic, superb angler, because he is.
Oh, yeah.
But he's so funny. And I thought, I'm going to walk this. I'm just going to push him over and bury him. So anyway, told the story at home. So we're at the Barry's barbecue, and he's mentioned it. So my missus is fired into him. And I had to stop her. Yeah, but he's cheating. Oh, she was into him. Yeah. You cheated. It was after time. You're giving it all large in front of your mates. And he wasn't. He was just being Lewis. Beat Chemo. And it was, by then, the pain had gone. And it was just, it's a day's bloody fishing. But I won't lie, it hurt. It hurt at the time.
He's a stinger,
mate.
Isn't it, mate?
Oh, it hurt, mate. But there you go. I love Lewis anyway. I always get a big hug. He does good hugs.
Good boy.
He does
Lewis,
great hugs. Great hugs, mate.
Good angler, good boy. And
in fact, sometimes he hangs on a bit too long. Yeah. Well, you've probably experienced that, haven't you?
I like a long hug.
I like a long hug, mate. Just not with Lewis. But that was I loved batch fishing. I don't so much now.
Why? That's what I was going to go to. Why
mate,
not now?
I'm 60.
Yeah, but you fish the complexes where a lot of matches are held still. Maybe less.
Do you know what's saying now. That, Hassan? I'm rude here butting in. The Lucy Bowles thing.
Yes.
I got there. Tony had paid £2,250 to fish for me, and we got a good swim. And to be fair, Jim let us choose a swim. This man had paid so much money. So I said, we're on the island, stick us on the corner. Yeah. Johnny Max to my left. I got there, I was going to him at his funeral. All right, so I've got him there. He stayed at my house the night before. There's a lot of stuff going on here so I can make the funeral. Got Tony at my house, a nice Chinese. Got him to the swim. That's where we're going to be fishing, Tone. He can't hit 25 wraps. So, right, I'll go on the right, you go on the 14. Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm off. Now it's not a match, but there's a prize. So now it's a bloody match. And I said this to the guy at Lucy Bowles. I said, you've changed it. It's a match. So anyway, got him fishing. I've gone to the funeral. Got back at 7 in the evening. There ain't been a lot out. Ash has had a few. Ash Bradbury off of one swim. Tony's had one and lost one. So I said, right, here we go. I said, I'll tell you what we're going to do here. I ain't stopping. We're winning it. It's a very emotional day.
Yeah, of course.
I said, I am not stopping now. We are going to get you that trophy because of what's gone on today with Ian.
Yeah.
I started spomming. I got 2 rods out there. Bang, got one. Bang, got another one. Bang, got another one. Bang, lost one. Bang, lost one. I went through 45 kilos of pellet on a spom at 25 reps, and we had 16 takes for 10 fish, up to sort of just under 25 pounds. Now we've ended up with just under 200 pounds. So the event is over.
It's a match.
Even Tony, Tony's area only done the one bite.
Really?
They were too far for him, so I'm now on it. He can't spot 25. I'm on it, mate. I ain't stopping. Drop the rod, pick a fish, da-da-da-da. So at the end of it, I've gone up to Andy, one of the organisers, and I said, here's our fish list. I said, I think we've done all right. Ash had a 30, and now I know Ash had 12 fish, but some of Ash's had been quite small. So he said, we've changed the rules. I said, what do you mean change the rules? I said, it's a charity event, for Christ's sake. What do you mean change it? He said, because Ash didn't weigh, and Ash, I love Ash Bradbury, and he agreed with that when in the end, to be fair. Ash said, that's right, it should be. He said, we're going to count on numbers, not weights. I said, no, you ain't. I said, I've weighed every fish and worked my nuts off for Tony. He spent 2,500, including the raffle. And now you're changing. Well, Les Bell's got involved. And then I walked off. This Andy come up 10 minutes later. He said, no, it's fine. Ash should have weighed his fishy, and we can't change the rules at the end. So you've weighed your fish. That's it, done. So Tony went on with the... Now, I felt Ash got biggest fish of the competition. Yeah. So he got a prize. I didn't get a prize. Tony got the prize. He'd paid the money, and off we went. But yes, you're right. It's still in there. I ain't losing. But I can't say I really enjoyed that because I was very emotional and thinking of Ian as well.
Yeah, of course.
And I know, it's human nature. I'm doing this, and it was. I loved it. And it did bring out the side of me that I left in battle carp wars. But I also I did enjoy it. That was your first question. Yeah, I really did enjoy it.
So why are we not seeing you in the BCAC?
BCACs, mate, this is a subject I know you're going to get on in. Look at that smile.
No, I'm not saying.
I bloody well know you're going to ask me a certain question, right?
Anything.
BCACs at the moment, I think, I don't even want to talk about this really because it's so controversial, and I've got such good friends out there, mate. I don't want to go in the matches, mate. I'm going to spend £300 to lose. I ain't doing it. And a lot of people feel the same way.
Fair play.
And that's what we should leave it at that, because I've got a great many friends that do the matches. I've got a great many friends that won't do them also because of, certain issues that are out there that everyone's talking about, but I ain't going to talk about it. But so, no, if it was a fun day's fishing for a magazine, then yeah, but not BCACs. I've done the World Cup Classic the other year.
You got Daiwa Masters. You've won that as well,
I
haven't
won
you?
Daiwa Masters, yeah.
So you've got a good pedigree in matching there,
Yeah,
mate. Talk me through the Daiwa Masters.
Daiwa Masters came around. I didn't even know it existed because, again, this is early Heathrow days. Yeah, I'm pounding away and I'm fishing. I won it because of 3 40-pounders on the bounce. No, I didn't know this was going on, honest to God. And it was Jules that voted for me, and a guy called Richard Morris, who was also in the contention, but he voted for me, which was really nice. I didn't know until I'd won it that this was in the angling time.
Yeah.
Anyway, how I won it, 3 fish. I went to some of these, caught a 40-pounder.
Yeah.
43-pound fish, my first ever 40. Ooh, that'll give me my little company a bit of a push. Went to Summerleys a couple of weeks later, caught another 40-pounder. Yeah, big old leanies.
Yeah,
so this is making big news front of Carp Talk, all over the Anglers Mail. After the next weekend, I blanked on Summerleys, but I stopped at Halton to do a line delivery and pop-ups to a couple of the members. Sat with Frogger, and I've told this story 100 times, Hassan, so briefly, sat with Frogger in Spindley Tree. Geezer packed up in Salt Circle, one showed. And I'm sitting there drinking a cup of tea with Frogger. Frogger wanted a fish called shoulders, so he'd caught them all, but his heart and soul was shoulders. Anyway, another fish showed. Got this cup of tea. I said, do you know what, Frogger? If another one shows, I'm going to go and get rods. I'm catching shoulders. Now, I hadn't seen, it looked like a comment to me.
Yeah.
I'm going to go and catch shoulders. Yeah, of course you will, like little Frogger. Another one showed. I said, right, leave me tea there, buddy. back flat in half hour, give you a shout with shoulders. It's all banter. It's wind-ups. Gone to the car, got 2 rods that still had the baits on from some of these, and I hook him out and landing net. Walked down the salt circle, tied them all up, pinged them off the rod. I'm like that now. Dale's walked up. There goes. Big old thing. Upper 20 common. Straight in the ring. It's not 7-8 yards out. Bang. As it went down, Dale said, "Weedy there," and it went crack. I said, "Oh, it ain't there." Set them slack, both rods, left them on the floor. Nothing else showed. Typical Horton in them days. It was spooky. Gary Bond walked up, and Gary, I love Gary, but he's the loudest person on the planet. Oh, my head, get on. I forget the rods they're not even in equation anymore. I've been out there 20 minutes. Dale's there, a couple of other lads. Cash come up, Cash Farnham with his barra. And on top of it, some things are like fated. On top of the barra is his video camera. Right? Perfect. With that, we chatted away. Gary Bond's gone, "Whoa, have a look." Big old Shimano bait runners clicking away slowly. Oh, I'm in. Cash is straight on. Now, this was using the Gardner DVDs. Yeah, this footage from hooking it. Here we go. Dale's there, and it surfaces about 10 yards out, and it's like the air's blue. It's bloody shoulders. The big load of grey slime along the shoulder it used to have. And in she goes, 41, an half-hour section on the Horton.
But you didn't put yourself in for the Dial Masters on those
No,
captures?
I didn't know anything about it.
So it's just the people that voted for you?
Yeah, Jules was really, I think, the deciding vote. They pegged it as something like 340s in 3 hours fishing or something. It wasn't quite that, but it's good reading. And I won a Diver Master. I got a £3,000, and obviously when I went to what is now Farriers. It used to be Lake Jawar or something. It's Middleton. Presented me with this truck, Colin Davison. Me and Colin Davison went there, done the night, caught a couple of little commons that are now like that, aren't they, in Farriers, because it wasn't called Farriers, and got presented with this. And the photo in the paper, there's me with this guy, one of the head Daiwa guys, and we all used to wear them optics, sunglasses. I look like Janet Street Porter. The sunglasses are like this. in my picture. And I've got this huge cup, which I had for a year and give back, and they give me the little one, which I've still got at home. And the next year, little John Coxhead won it at Yateley, so I went to Yateley Pads Lake, fished the night again with Colin Davison, and the cup to John. So, yeah, that was a big achievement. And I bought my children, because it was free, I think it was $3,000. I went and bought them, I spent £1,000 on a computer for them for their education. So, so it come in handy. And for business.
Yeah, Colin Davidson's here now, mate.
I know he is, mate. I haven't seen him for blooming years.
Well, we didn't talk about match fishing wise before I took you down another winning route of yours. Is Carp Wars the TV version? Right, that was put on.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, throughout your course and time in carp fishing, we've gone from magazines being the influentials to sort of social media, but TV has come in the middle of that period.
Well, the final of Battle Carp on Thorpe Lee with Ian McMillan was televised. On Sky. Keith Arthur was doing the presenting. So we were gradually finding our way into it. Yeah, Keith Arthur was, I know Keith, he's one of the nicest men on the earth, Keith Arthur, and also one of the most educated in the angling world on what we do. But yeah, so that was televised with Sky TV, Sky Sports.
How's that? How did you find that?
Brilliant. I loved it because I'm a showman, and so was Ian. So we played up proper, and I think both of us had actually been in to the Sky Studios and done that little shed thing that he used to do, and I loved it, mate.
Tight lines,
you were made to feel like rorty. It was just so nice. And then it was like a wall there, and then a studio, putting it all together. But so we were already creeping into that. So when Carp Wars, Paul Cooper, I didn't know, rang me I just jump back a bit. I got a phone call off of Dave, can't remember his surname now. That's really rude. And John Dunford was the cameraman from Fishing TV.
Right.
This was a couple of years prior to Carp Wars.
Yeah.
And Dave's surname will come to me. Do you want to be involved in doing a series called Carp Coach?
Carp Coach.
So I said, do you know what? Yeah. I went to, it was Camden Town in an office block for an interview. And obviously got the gig. I took a lot of photos, spoke to them. I'd never met either of them before.
Interview? What sort of interview questions?
Well, how are you with camera? It was about your background, really. I think they wanted to know whether you were like this or you were like that.
Yeah.
So out come Carp Coach, and I've done I don't know, about six episodes, I think. And I mean, Tommy took it over later as carp coach with someone. I thoroughly enjoyed it, mate. It was me and a client, would you call them? You know, a member of the public. On the shows, and we done them at Farlow's, done them at Fort Lee. We done them. I've done them at loads of different places, like, you know, and thoroughly enjoyed. There was one lad, real rock hard looking, skinhead, big boots.
They're like me.
More, not quite as hard as you. Anyway, his name is Paul, and I'm not going to mock him because he's a big tough lad. Got an hook in his finger. So I said, "Here, turn the cameras off." I said, "Kizzy, I've got a pair of pliers." No. And I would have been the same. You know, some stranger's going to rip this hook out. No, I don't want it to go. And he was nearly in tears, Paul, bless his heart, mate. Lovely young lad, caught loads of fish, but he tried to change his bait by pulling the rod tip round.
Oh.
And it slipped. Bosh, mate. He went to hospital and got it out. But I love Carp Coach. Now, that's when I met Paul Cooper as well.
Yes.
At the end of it. And then Paul made the phone call, would you like to be involved, explained it. And I said, yeah. And he said, would you like to help me choose the anglers that go in it? And I thought, bloody hell, that's more involvement than I would. And I couldn't give you the full spread, but, you know, Mark Bryant.
Yeah.
An amazing guy. We picked those that I never picked people I thought I could beat because I won't worry about anybody. I'm not worried about anybody.
Yeah, of course.
You know, we picked, and Paul had the final say, tried to pick one from each company as well.
Yes.
And we loved it. Chili was in it. You know, I got Laney in it. I begged him to get in it. I begged him at Millen First Series, wouldn't have it, wasn't interested. Mark Pritchard was asked, wouldn't get into it. But we had a good time. And your wild card was Harry Pratt.
Yeah. Good old Harry.
Didn't he win it?
He did, didn't he?
Beat the pants off me, mate. And he beat the pants off everyone. But when I come to fish against Harry, I hadn't lost. I'd been everywhere. And I'd beaten Laney, I'd beaten Mark Bryan, Chili, blah, blah, blah. I beat them all. And then, because I turned, and he'd also beaten them all. So we ended up on this lake. And I'd said to Paul, mate, your final was in France, and I can't make it. I've got other work commitments that I cannot give up on. So he said, well, don't worry. We'll if you beat Harry, we'll adjust. Well, I didn't beat Harry. Harry won the toss. There was one swim full of fish, and the rest of the lake had nothing in it. I'm not taking anything off him because he's superb, mate. What an angler.
Yeah.
But he beat the life out of me, mate. Absolutely annihilated me. But when the series came about, it ended up being a bit of an argument, which when I'd fish against Jerry Hammond, you get 3 lifelines, an extra rod.
That's right, an extra hour.
An extra hour, or phone a friend. No, double the weight of your fish.
Double the weight,
right.
That was the one.
So against Jerry Hammond, I was winning. Jerry caught a load of fish overnight. My marshal, I had 2 fish in the night they hadn't put on the sheet. Now I'm tired, I'm losing touch, I've got a marshal to do that job for me, right? So in the morning, I'm behind by like £4, and it's like, well, how can that be? No, it is. So I said, right, I'll call me extra hour, right? In the extra hour, I caught a 6-pounder. So I beat Jerry. But now I've used my extra hour when I didn't need it. You with me?
Yeah.
As it unravels.
So you found out later that those 2 fish weren't in?
I didn't find out till it came on the telly.
Oh.
So now I'm fishing against Harry. Now I've had a fish an hour before the end. Harry's had, I think, 5 good 20s or something like that. He's well ahead of me. I've doubled the weight on that one. So now I only need 3 fish. My swim is now full of fish. I'm not going to say I would have beat Harry because I honestly don't think I would. But the extra hour might have crept me a bit closer, or I might have got the biggest fish, which would have kept his points down. Yeah? So I lost. That's it. Harry, off you go. Well done. Go and do you do. Comes on the telly, and I'm watching it. I'll watch that again. Rewound it. Phone Paul. I said, Paul. He said, I know what you're going to say. I said, you don't? He said, no, I do. He said, we was hoping you wouldn't noticed. I said, and it got a little bit. Ooh. Mate, I said, what it could have been. I may have been in the final with Harry. Or I don't know. Anyway, that aside, I'm not sulking. Harry won it. That's the end of it. He won the whole competition, and I tipped my hat to him, mate. What a great little lad.
Was it Laney you got through in the final? Was he Laney fished with the game?
He fished in the first one. He fished against Dave. Yeah. Absolutely. Again, buried Dave.
Yeah.
You know, I remember Dave ringing me 24 hours into it. He rang me up. He said, how's this, chemo? I said, what's going on? Because I wanted to know what was going on. He said, I'm doing the walk of shame. And Dave won't mind me saying this. No. Walk of shame with a young man. I haven't caught nothing, and he's on like 300 odd carp. So it ended. Months later, Paul rang me. Hello, mate. We're going to do, a year later, whatever it was, Hassan, we're going to do a series 2 of carp. I said I couldn't give a couple of...
So straight shut off.
I said, no, not in a million years, mate, because of what you've done. He said, all right, fair enough, thought we'd asked you. Well, about 2 weeks later, he rang up. He said, right, don't sound off at me. And I'm not going to name the name. We're going to offer it to this certain person if you don't do it. I said, right, I'll do it. Because the certain person, I don't think would have fitted anyway, but I'd rather do it than him. And I won. There's no, now I've done a chart on this one.
Yeah, so you were on it.
Mate, I've done a chart. I wrote every weight, every time, every fish. I've done a chart that
the Magna
took
Carta.
me through. Oh, mate, yeah. And they all laughed at me, but I didn't care. Every fish was written down. And some of them matches were quite hectic. Like against Lee, I lost to Lee at Bird's Green, the initial one.
Yeah, that was right, Essex.
I lost to Lee, and mate, we and even Lee, when we fished the final together, he said, I've never known anything like it, mate. Because Lee's full of energy. I love
Mozza is full
I'd
on.
like to fish with Lee more, but he's with, we've got different companies going on. But his energy level, I love him, all his funny faces and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
but he's a genius with the camera. Anyway, we fished at Bird's Green, and it was me, him. 11 o'clock at night, I took over. I'm in the lead because he bloody well made me earn it. He had a Ridge Monkey light, and I had a Ridge Monkey, the green one. And all I can see, you've been at Bird's Green.
Yeah.
There's the island. We're off. We've got a side each. It's bloody green. And he was subsequently afterwards. He said, "I wanted to shoot your green light." He said, "All night you're going up and down and feeding." He beat me by, I think, 3 fish in the morning. In a spell, and he earned it, mate. We worked so hard. I lost a 20, which would have nicked 1 point for the biggest fish, because the biggest fish went with a 19-12 or something. I lost a 20-pounder, but I lost all 3 points. No, that's the first one I'd lost at all. I hadn't lost a point. I beat Levy, I beat Laney, hands down, beat Dave, I beat them all. So now in the final was me and Lee. We went to France, and I can't remember the name of the place now. 48 hours fishing. I've never seen so many fish airborne in my life, the size of whales. Neither of us had a bite. And it was like,
I remember it, yeah.
I was like, and Paul again said, Ian, can you stay another 20? No, I can't.
Yeah,
I've got work. I have to do this. So did Lee. So we made it. We done it on, what is Jack Lamb's lake called?
You basically.
That's really rude because that's a lovely little lake. We went there. I ended up on them. Lee wasn't, and I had, I think, 5, and Lee had nothing.
How long did you fish that lake for? Because it looked like you. Obviously, the first bit was quite condensed.
What, you mean the final?
Yeah, the final.
When I had the doubles.
Yeah.
We started at 8 and finished at 3.
Yeah, I was going to say, it was a short day, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, mate, yeah.
Because I remember seeing quite a condensed edit on the first Friends venue where no one caught anything.
Yeah.
And then I remember thinking, well, surely there ain't much time here. Yeah, that's a short
We
day.
were going to fish either to 3 o'clock with a combined weight of fish, yeah? Or if no one had caught by 3, we were doing as long as it took.
Death.
The first fish was going to do it, mate. And mate, I cast out and had a bite within like a minute.
Yeah.
And Lee, and there's always someone's going to win.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Always someone's got to win. And I did feel for him. After my third one was a good 20. And now, see, having done matches forever, and to be fair to Lee, he hasn't. Now, my head's in for matches. So now that 25 pound is 2 fish. So now Lee needs 5 fish to even catch up with me, let alone take over, which also means I've got to stop catching, which I ain't going to do. So by halfway through it, I know I'm clear.
You've done it, yeah.
Yeah, and even if my world drops out, Lee ain't got time to catch 5 or 6 good doubles. There's not enough time on the clock left. So that's how I used to work the matches out as well. So it's not just a case of catch another one. You're also working out what's going on and how much time they've got to do it and what the weights are. There's a lot and these modern lads, Ryan and Wayne that won it twice, they're clockwork, mate. They are.
Oh, mate, hats off to anybody in that environment because it's high pressure. You need to know everything. You need to be reactive and incredible angles,
You're on it.
Mate.
When I fished the early BCACs with Phil de Silva, we made every final. And I loved it. Phil is a extremely good big fish angler, and I was then a speed angler. So the balance was there. We used to argue like engine bracket, but we would produce the goods. We knew we'd find a balance and get them, The one we won at Farlow's was, I'd known they'd put a load of Stockley Park stockies in, and quite a few of the field didn't know this. So we ended up on the corner. Ironically enough, we were next to Wayne, who now is the English champion. Yeah. And I can't remember his partner's name, but it wasn't Ryan. Anyway, we've got there. I've ripped the lid off this big thing of maggots. And I remember, not Wayne, because he knew, his partner said, that there is like taking a mini car to an F1 racing trip, Russell. What do you think you're going to do with that lot? Well, we had about 18 fish. and they had about 4 or 5. So at the end of it, to be fair, he come up and he went, didn't your mini do well? It was great, and Rob done a great write-up in the BCC saying, an excellent display of open water fishing by Russell de Silva, but that got us to the final again. We never stopped. Angling. So we were the same, but energy levels now changed, mate. And the match scene, I've done presenting, as you have, on the BCAC final 2 years running at Raceby on behalf of RK, and watching the way some of these, it's all changed. Everything changes, progression, isn't it?
Yeah, of course.
I'd still hold my own, but I'd have to have a partner with the same energy level.
Yeah.
To be able to do that. Most of my mates are lazy gits that don't want to do that. So, no, I can't think of anyone. Probably can think of someone, actually, Stevie Coe, who's on for Dynamite.
Yeah.
Steve, I'm not on about the French fishing now, which is a 5-day match, which is big fish angling. Speed fishing, I fished against Steve in Carp Wars, and yes, I did beat Steve, but I would quite happily fish a BCAC with Steve, and probably Steve alone.
So from match fishing day tickets, to go to a complex that I've been fortunate to see you a fair few times on.
Yes.
The RK Leisure Complex as a whole. Now, obviously, Cemex before that, but you've been on those hallowed lakes for a fair bit of time.
Long time. Well, again, I mentioned Shoulders earlier. That's like God knows how many years ago. It feels like a lifetime. But then I met Raphael and Jamie.
Yeah.
Obviously, Raphael Kaliki, the RK side of it. I met him at Abbey Lakes.
Did you? Was he out there fishing?
Yeah, he was out there fishing with Stuart Bryce and Bob Coleman. And ironically, the first time I met Raphael, I had an old black Transporter at the time with wind down windows. Right, roll with it. So I pulled up. Stuart now told me who they are, and they're all Raph's buying, the lakes that I'm fishing. So they put it next to me, and he's got this G-Wagon, which is like bulletproof and worth £500,000. And he's gone, so the window goes down, so I've gone, me being me. And I said, hello, mate. I said, I'll ask your first question. It's not happening. No, he ain't said a word yet. He said, pardon? I said, it ain't happening. He said, no, we're my driver's mirror window and his driver's window, yeah? Raphael. And he said, what are you talking about? I said, I'm swapping that for this. Forget it, mate. And he said, I was warned about you. And that was my baptism with Raphael. Great guy. Done a lot with the lakes. I walked and talked the lakes from before they bought it with them. So I've got a good relationship with them. And Raphael always said, Ian, you'll have a ticket, a media card, because I've been involved since before they paid for the lakes.
Yeah.
Walking around Raceby and connections and whatever else. I get on great with the guys, do a lot for them in the media world, as well as introducing new members. I've walked more members around there than I haven't, and they bought tickets. So always ask permission to walk, but they probably 4 or 5 members every year, Raceby and gold cards. I've walked and talked and that's what you do, isn't it? But I get on wonderful, Raphael, which led me to doing the presenting on behalf of the RK Leisure lot for the BCAC, sorry. What have they done? I know.
They've done an incredible. I know them personally. Jamie, absolute legend. The amount of times I've rang Jamie up and said, Jamie, I need to come and fish your lake. And he'll be like, yeah, Huss, no worries, do it. Raph, the same. I've met him a couple of occasions, been fortunate to. In my opinion, and I don't know, this is just my mindset, there was a load of negativity around the change of Raceby, people saying that whatever had happened, it had been ruined, the magic had gone, etc. When I'm there, and this is genuinely me being honest, not just saying it because they're friends of mine now, there is still that magic, that history there, and it has to, like everything does, it has to change and develop and grow.
It's modern carp angling.
Yeah.
I couldn't quote how many tickets had sold on Raceby the year before, something like 10.
Yeah.
It wasn't very well. It wasn't kept at all. It was horrible. Look what can you imagine the finance alone spent not to purchasing the lake, to making it out, fencing it, but the dividing, built the clubhouse thing, with Horton as well. It's a modern carp fishing. People want to go fishing to catch carp, not fish for 10 fish in 100 acres. You've got a very, very small minority want to do that, and they're not the ones that spend the money. And ultimately, at the end of the day, it is a business.
Yeah.
But what they've created is carp angling heaven.
That's mad.
Yeah.
I think the first time I went there, I fished the South Lake with Dean Macy, believe it or not. And he took me round, Jamie. He couldn't have done any more for us. And the paths, just to pave, wherever you could drive around that central track, let alone the peninsula and the big lodge. you're talking millions of quid, aren't
Yep.
you? It's like silly money. And if that wasn't raised by those guys, I mean, invariably, it'd be,
where would it have gone?
Yeah, exactly, mate.
Where would it have gone? You know, people might have bought it and turned it into something else or backfill. I don't know about backfilling. Or, who knows? What I do know is what they've done with it is amazing, and I love it. The venues are secure. The venues are palatial. The swims are nice, modern again. You know, not creeping through the bushes with a machete. The fish, every lake they've got now, the fish are just, you can't count the 40 pounders on one hand now where you used to be able to. It's incredible, mate. Well, Raisby alone, I think we added up to about 1840s last winter when we were sitting at home in this lockdown thing. Like, you know, that's just raised. That's just the North Lake. You know, the church, God knows how many 40s and 50s. You know, I weighed a 55 the other week on the church with someone.
Did you?
It's like crazy, like, you know, it's like a baby whale, isn't it? You know, the K1, I've caught most of them at K1. Now they're that much bigger. My PB mirror, 48 pounds odd, has made 56 pounds, scarred mirror. The biggest common in there for me was at 46 pounds the up front. That's done 49.14. They're just, it's brilliant fishing. Brilliant fishing.
Yeah, you're very fortunate if you're near that place where you can get a ticket. Definitely, yeah. If you haven't been, take a look. It's mega. But in terms of your time on there and your angling, one campaign that I've seen and sort of followed and lived through to some extent is the boat pool. Yeah. And the winter campaign.
Oh, that done me head in. Well, it didn't. I found it very frustrating. My first winter on there. Now, I rarely do this, Sazanne, but I'd gobbed off, which I always do, but rarely gobbed off about saying, I'm going to catch that. Because I'm not that good at that. You know, that's your Terry Earns, and to be fair, your Dave Lanes. People of that pecky, they pick a fish, and they've got the ability to work that fish out and catch it, usually quite fast. I said, I'm having that. Well, after the first winter, it was, well, either of them I do. It was like, because there was three big ones in there. You had a flat tail, the square, and the big two-tone one. The first winter both winters I fished, I'd done 20 nights. Bear in mind, I've got other stuff going on, so I've done 20 nights over the whole winter. The first winter, I had 6 fish, 4 of them on my first trip. So I'm thinking, this is going to be easy.
4 on a trip.
Easy peasy lemon squeezy. The next 2 fish I had were both doubles, and they were well into the campaign, if you want to call it that. My second winter, I changed. I changed bait. I changed from spodding, feeding. I was using a sprinkling of maggots, which I had to drop in the end because of the eel population. And I was using Monster Tiger Nut crumb with 12 min Monster Tiger Nut pop-ups on a Ronnie. And yes, I fell. When I say I fall lucky on a load of fish, you've still got to accumulate a number of fish from that area. Now, my first trip, I felt lucky on a load of them. In 36 hours, I went for an afternoon, which turned into a night, which turned into 48 hours, okay? I ended up, I think it was 13 or 14, something like that fish. Half of them were 35-pounders. It just kept going off. It was just obscene. Like, you know, I was on my own, so there was no one there. So Vince lives behind in the caravan. He come out in his SpongeBob SquarePants pyjamas a few times, you know. If his light was on, I phoned him, and bless him, he was out weighing the fish, doing the photos, putting them back. So in that winter, and say the eels, I started with maggot, then went maggots on top of pop-ups, and then went pop-ups. The eels you'd get with 6 maggots on top of a pop-up and 6 little empty glass-coloured skins. Drop them. And I went on maggot. I kept some maggots going in the crumb, but mainly bags of crumb. No spodding, just looking for fish and getting on them. And I ended up 20 nights. I think it was 35 carp in 20 nights, but neither of them bloody commons.
Yeah, that's
and in all fairness, I'm saying everyone you hook is a common until you see it isn't. No, I had a 30-pound ghosty, I had a 28 common, the rest of them were mirrors, and I was doubling up from the year before. Yeah. But you've got to keep punching away at it, wouldn't you? But I really enjoyed it. You know, wherever I moved, the year before they'd located themselves as you go into the lake on the left in that slightly deeper bit, left of the point.
Yeah.
This winter, I'd started on the concrete because I'd seen one. And every
is that the
fish
day swim with a tree?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously you can night fish it, but it's obviously slightly less comfortable. One morning, the brolly went up the tree. A gust of wind, and I packed everything away at 3 a.m, just sat on the chair, you know, just like this. But I was catching fish, like, you know. The eels, they were like scaffold poles if you hooked one, do you know I hooked several in the middle of the body? And I spoke to Ed Matthews, who is a fantastic predator angler, and he reckons they do the same. They flank it.
Do they?
You know, and hooking them in the middle. But the carp fishing was phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I went around the chair swim. I done a tutorial on Brasenose 2 one day, and I'm looking at the conditions. Now, the boat pool of a night fish better when it was flat calm and the highest pressure you could get. Honest, so I'm now driving away. It's getting dark at 4.
Yeah.
This is like December. I'm still going to the boat pool. Gets there, walk around my bucket, no one in the chair. Brilliant. I can get off. This is an area that I've led it around in when I'm not fishing. So when I get there in the dark, I can just go, little bag, I'm on it. That night, I had two 36s. I got Vince out again. I started fishing at about 7:30, had him around at 9, had him around again at 11:30, and then they dried up. I went home in the morning. The next trip, I had one, I can't remember, the Sutton or something, 36-12, and a couple of little ones. It was mad. But to end up on, you know, two of the pages in the book, because it's all logged in the book, as you know, are literally Ian. And I wrote down Wes's comments, just incredible. It's just incredible, like, you know, it's just mad fishing. But 35, I think it was, fish for about 20 nights was just...
This winter, are you going back for the big uns?
No. I went in there. It ended for me.
Right.
Right, I went over there. I went to Raysbury, sat up on them. Jamie come over and said, right, you got to pack up. I said, why? He said, Raf's coming over. And Raf always, with his family, he fishes in these 2 particular pegs next to the cars. Fair enough, Raf owns the lake. I said, right. He said, do the night. Go in the morning. You got to about 10 o'clock, and then Raf would turn up. He said, that's fine. So I done the night, never caught anything. Wrapped up, drove to the boat pool. I met a mate of mine on there, and he said, oh, go on. He was on the left point. He said, go on, just do the night. You've planned for it, just do the night. And it was like, catfish? I don't want to get catfish. But like a month before, I'd done one night on there, and I swore to myself, if I go on the boat pool, I'm changing tactics. I'm going to fill it in. And I'd done a night on what they call the K1 bank. And I put a whole bucket, which is like the dynamite buckets. I don't know what they hold, about 7 or 8 kilos. Corn and them, the whole lot. I put it all in with a spom. And I put 2 rigs on it with little monster target up Popups, yeah? Out it goes. That night I had 3 carp and 6 bream, including the big bream in there that one bream specialist was on there to try and catch. It's like Hercules, this thing.
Oh, mate, anyway, I've had them with Ollie. They're big bream.
Oh, mate. I weighed this one. First time I caught this fish, I weighed it 18-12.
Jeez.
So the second time, when my mate said to Mike, said, go on. And it was like, it's boiling hot. All right, sorry. I love fishing with Mike anyway. He's like Mr. Bean. If something's going to happen, he's going to happen. He's just good, great fun. So I've got my bucket out the van that I had at Raysbury, stuck the lot out at 10 wraps towards Vince's tree over there, settled down. In the night, 3 bream. Like, jeez, bloody bream. My mate had a £20 common. First light, one of them whistles off. Low double, fully scaled. 7:30 or something. Anyway, 7:30 in the morning, little fully scaled. Brilliant. 4 more spoms. Don't care. Got off until lunchtime. 8:30, took off again. And I think, oh, geez, it's one of them, isn't it? I've got braid on, and it's flat rodding me. It's absolutely going bonkers, this fish. Catfish, bloody. So I'm giving it more than I should. So it's definitely a catfish. Nowhere on earth is it's not a £20 bloody catfish. They're a nuisance. It rolled in front of me. It's the square, which is one of the big 2-tone had passed away about 2 weeks before.
Right.
Age. It was an old carp. So now there's only one, and I remember saying to Mike, there's only one. What I'm fishing for in the boat pool is that big. A bloody mouth, one out of 90 carp. It rolled, it's just square common. So off it went again, stuck in the weed, got it in. Now I'm not playing like a catfish. In she went. Now in the winter, she went 46 odd.
Yeah.
Not that it mattered at all to me. Last October, I had it was £39 on the button. Didn't care.
Yeah, it's done.
Job was over. Relief.
Yeah,
and I'd caught this lovely big common carp. So I will never say never. At the moment, I never see myself casting the boat pool again. But I did enjoy the journey. You know, I've had some the mirrors in there are probably some of the best looking mirrors on site, which Ollie will agree with, like, you know. And Ollie will also agree, and I spoke to him a lot about the boat pool. It's also, not because I struggled the first winter, he's also found it, and so has Terry, long-haired Terry on there, and they are first-class anglers.
Yeah.
They've always said it's the hardest lake to be consistent on. You can nick a fish, but building, you know, so I was pleased to hear that, but over and done with, mate.
Yeah.
Over and done with, yeah.
Done. What about K1, mate? Kingsmead.
K1, love it.
You've done well on there.
When I caught the big mirror, that was in a 13 or 14 fish hit on sweet corn. I was going to France 2 days before, 2 days after, with my son, and I had like something like 80 cans of corn in the van. For the 2 or 3 days later, anyway. Anyway, I started spomming, got in dog 1, fish showed, caught nothing all day. Late that night, I had a 36, and it built. And in between, George Locklin was to my right in dog 2, my netsman. It turned out, great company.
Love that.
And I think 13 fish and lost 2, up to, it wasn't 48, it was £47 10 ounces, the scarred mirror. So, but they were nearly all, I had a 39-14 common. You know, subsequently, that's well over the mark now. I had so many 35, 36, 37s. It was crazy. Sweet corn. 2 bits of plastic. Just sweet. I never... Where I was for Sonia Baits, they done baked bean-sized tins of corn and baked bean tin size of hemp.
Yeah.
And I was cracking. But I'd done... When I left... I'm pretty sure when I left George, I left him about 8 tins. I said, just put that in. Jeez. Keep it going. George went in with boilies and blanked.
Yeah.
But the corn kept it going. But even the big common, when it was the other year, years ago, there used to be millions of rudd in K1, and they all went missing. Now, the other year, I stood on the beach, and there was a million little black fish, and the fishing was really hard. They were fizzing, and I reckon they were smashing the lake bed and gorging on these little fish. So I went in there with maggot in the summer, and a couple of the anglers said, really? Yeah. You're really going to spoil it by using maggot? Well, hang on, I'm going fishing. And what I use, as long as it isn't harmful, is down to me. Yeah. So I started with maggot on the rig as well. A couple of 30s, ill. So I changed to little yellow dumbbells. Okay, little 12mm dumbbells on the rig.
Still putting maggot out.
Just kept putting maggot out and sweet corn. Yeah. And in 8 nights fishing, I think it was 20 odd fish, which is quite cool. I'd done 2-3 nights and a 2-nighter, mostly 30s again. I had the number 1 fish, the number 2 fish, and the top of the tree for me was the upfront common, which is I've always wanted. I've weighed it and photographed it probably 3 times. What did surprise me was his weight. It was 46 pounds.
Yeah, I remember that going on social and going, just the picture, it looks mad.
What a fit. It's enormous. Yeah. 49 pound odd. Now it's made. You know, so, but that was, and I pulled off then, you know, that again, that I only went on there, Hassan, for that short amount of time because the water in the boat pool was so low. And the film I've got of me with the up front, where in peg 15, let's say you're fishing from up here usually, and the water was that, I'm down here playing the fish on the muddy bank. The water was that low in the boat, it didn't look right. No. So I went on K1. Yeah. So again, sometimes, you know, you're thrown at something that you don't realise is coming.
Yeah, of course.
I do love K1. I love, mate. It's got so many 30. I mean, Laney's on there now. You know, there's some big rods on there now. Briggs is on there. You know, you're fishing for shoals of 30, 35 pound fish.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah, and there's so many 40s in there and 50s. A couple of 350s.
Yeah, ridiculous place. It is mega. Raspberry.
Yeah.
What?
That's my favourite arcade venue.
Yeah, surely.
I went on there with 2 things in mind: a big red mire and a mirror nut called No Name. Now, again, I didn't say anything about I want No Name. I kept it to myself. I'd seen the fish in one of the BCAC finals. Young Jack had it at 35 odd, and it's like an incredible looking carp.
Yeah.
I've forgotten all about it, and when I went back on her, I thought, that's in here. That's £40 now. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So, started fishing there. Started doing all right. At the time, it was quite busy. So if you could, there's probably 8 hit zones where you want to be in. There's always better swims on a lake, as you know. Yeah. That you want to. On the way there, you can't help it, but you're like journeying it. You're already there. First few nights caught nothing. Couldn't get anywhere near fish. And when I started getting near fish, I caught fish. And in August, the year before this, I got into Rocky Barge. Fed a load of ground bait. I was doing well on ground bait. I was doing well with a bloody tench and all. 2 trips, I had 8 carp, 13 tench. Well, you don't often catch the tench. The ground bait and corn was doing something, and in amongst them, I had this No Name at £42, which was for me was like, gee, I'm not. It's nice to catch them all. That ain't never going to happen in Raspberry, but that was the one mirror carp. Like, you know, Jesus Christ, and a big red mire. I came through the lockdown. Up to the lockdown, I was doing all right through the winter. One particular area. Over New Year's, which I never do, I got there, couldn't get in some I wanted. I think, oh, bloody hell, like, you know, the style, everyone, the style. So I went in 27. Hadn't seen a fish. They were showing in 26 on the road bank. And Jake, the chef, was in there for 3 nights. So I thought, well, I'll have a couple of nights with him anyway. Go home New Year's Eve, do for me, and go out. I stayed New Year's Eve because I never saw anything show where I was. They were showing where Jake is, but I was catching them here. 18 foot of water, little monster tiger nut pop-ups at 32 wraps, which is it's a country mile for me. and I ended up with, again, 13 fish in 3 nights. But I had, there weren't no giants. I had a 36-pound linear, and I hooked that at 11:30 on New Year's Eve.
That's
right?
an absolute belter.
Oh, and mate, it's a great fish. The VS's, 11:30 I hooked it, 20 to 12 it's in the net.
Yeah.
I went up, got Jake up, done a load of photos and a little bit of a film. As I'm putting it back, this fireworks going on. And in the film, I said, Jake, sorry, mate. He said, what's that? I said, you filming? Yeah. I said, who's told all these people I've had this, just fun,
Classic.
you know? But I think I had 13 and lost a couple then, and then the lockdown it didn't it? So I was doing really well. I'd set myself a target then of if I hit 20 fish, because I don't do a mega amount of time on it, not as much as I'd like to, because I fish a lot.
Yeah.
And I said this on another podcast I'd done, and people mocked me for it. Some of the Raisby anglers mocked me for it when I said I don't do a lot of fishing. Well, maybe I should have explained that a bit more. I don't do a lot of fishing that I would choose to do on my own. You know, Raisby I choose to do on my own. I'm always over linear. I'm always over day tickets. And I love that. It's my work. But the fishing I should have said, the fishing I choose to do, I don't get a lot of. And they were making little films and making mockeries of me in fun. But I don't get a lot of my time fishing.
Yeah.
So I ain't done a lot. So I thought if I can hit 20 fish over the entire 12 months, I'll be happy. And I think I ended up on 32. So I was really pleased with that. Like, but catching 13 in a trip, it certainly bolsters that. But it bolsters that, doesn't it? You know, it knocked my numbers up. So I was quite happy with that.
That's good. That's really good angling on there, mate, because it's not easy fishing. And also, one thing with regards to Raisby, especially summertime, late spring and summer, is the weed, mate.
Oh,
the weed.
You know,
the last couple of years,
Hassan, it loves you and hates you. And I say this to new members. I've got 3 or 4 of my friends on there this year that are new members, and I love them to bits. But they didn't quite understand it till they fished it. You know, you're fishing at 25 wraps in 16 foot. 15 foot of that is bloody weed. So half the fish you're going to get all the way in, bit of a drag, and some of them are splish around and they're in the net. And half of them you get them 10 yards out and you just feel that inch. And it's like, oh, it's gone again.
Yeah.
So it can love and hate you in the same breath, like, you know. But I love the lake. I haven't fished it for a while now. I've done 8 nights this year for 6 fish. Including the big red mile common that I really wanted. Not because I don't want to go there, because it has been quite busy.
Yeah.
You know, and again, there are certain areas you'd like to get in. And if you can't get in, it's 12 mile. If I go there and I can't get where I'm confident of getting a bite, I'll go somewhere else, mate.
Yeah, of course.
What drama is it? Like, you know, I don't want to spoil it for me, but I've done all right. 8 nights, 6 fish. I'm pleased with that. And I'll go back and have a little go when it quietens late autumn, like winter.
Dealing with weed. Talk to me. How have you combated it? Because it is weedy.
I've got Harefield to buy a weed boat, and he puts it in only my swim.
In your swim, just
in my swim, and I'm very grateful of that. Well, the thing is, if you're fishing close in, you can use your stainless, you know, 4 or 5 inch little weed rake on 50-pound braid. But out there, 25, 30 wraps, that weed rake's going to hit the bottom in 18 to 16 foot. You're never going to get it back to you. You're pulling tons and tons of weight. So it literally is long fluorocarbon 25-pound leader. I've gone on to a heavy braid as long as I can make the range. If I'm closer, I quite happily swap to the velocity line I do in 19-pound because that is bulletproof. But a silly range, it's got to be braid because it cuts through it. But you're still going to lose, and it doesn't sound good angling, but you've got to account for the fact you're probably going to lose 20 to 25% of what you hook.
Yeah.
You know, and they're hook pulls. You're not cutting off and all that going on, but you've got to allow for it. It's
savage, isn't it?
It's a savage. You know, when it was the old Raisby, I know it was difficult fishing, but on one aspect, it must have been easier fishing. You had a boat. You could go out, you could lower your leads. And I've done this on some of these years ago, so I do know what I'm saying here. You can lower your leads. The only hard thing about Raisby in them years, I'm guessing, was sometimes there was intruders on the lake.
Yeah.
Okay, locals. And the other times, you couldn't find, you weren't on the fish. There was a small lead, say there was 40 or 50 carp, I think it was, in 120 acres. So if you couldn't get on them, it was hard. You were open. But if you could get on them and laid rigs near them, I think you got a bite. Same as at Summerlees when I fished it. You know, there were 16 fish in Summerlees, 65 acres. So if you equate to the acreage and the amount of fish, it was the same sort of fishing. But you could go out and get them in a boat. You can't now.
No.
You have to hang on, mate. I know people, little Carl, the other month, he had a fish on for about 4 hours, put the rod down.
Yeah.
Then eventually, when the bailiff came on in the evening, they did get a boat out. Sam went out, and they managed to reclaim a 35-pound fish. But what do? Eventually, the hook's going to go, or the fish will get off.
Yeah.
You know,
find a way through.
It's difficult.
You would put the rod down if you're in the weed, and it is solid. Are you a put the rod down man, slacken off, keep it under tension? What talk me through it?
Well, it's, that's an open-ended question, but you can only decide on which approach you're going to take at the time and the feel of the rod. Now, I've had fish where I've kept that pressure on and you're getting a little bit and the weed ain't so bad. And as long as they're going to bust through. Yeah. I've also had fish that just, you feel the rod, Hassan, and it goes,
yeah.
And it's like, they're probably in there. And I went out in a boat, or Barney went out in a boat for me at Chiller Mill once, 10 foot of water, and the line was out and the fish was there and it was a little common. And as soon as he pulled it, she was up and away. Yeah. So it doesn't mean it's a big fish, but they are in there. And your main pull then is against that weed. Yeah. It's not against the fish.
No, of course.
So you've just, in that situation, I think, put the rod down. Because if they've gone in that way, chances are they're going to come out that way and move your line again. And then hopefully you can draw them up. But you can only decide that at the time on what's going on with the rod, and it's same when I've got, and I'm terrible for it because I do the tutoring. If it's you locked up, I'm going, Hassan, if you and you've got every right to say, Ian, shut up and sit down and put the kettle on, because you need that rod in your hand to know what's going on. Yeah. And it's same as giving fish stick. I've fished with Milky, lovely, never bends his rod, but he's doing it his way. And I used to let him have it large, but you don't now. Milky lands as many, if not more, than I do. So you've all got to do it your own way, haven't you?
Yeah,
of course. Playing it like a girl. What's the matter with you? Bend the rod. It's a bend in the rod. I like to give him as much as it needs to get him to the net.
I like to give him a little bit less and drag it out for longer.
So, mate. But Raspberry's got me heart, and I'm hoping for an extra special ticket next year, which will remain nameless at the moment. But if not, I'll be back on Raspberry.
Yeah, it's a special place. They've done a great job up there, and the fishing seems to be getting better and better year on year, mate.
It's bizarre, because the like we mentioned earlier, like Simo Carp and then VS Carp, they're all lovely. They're all great fish, and you go to venues which are stocked with more than one or the other. Yeah, and that catch of fish over the New Year's was all VS's. Was it? And I was saying to Matty and Jake that spent every evening round the little fire, nattering away. If only I can get a bloody common or something other than and then you get a bite and it's another 34-pound linear, and you think, how can you moan?
I'm sick of scaly, beautiful.
I know that sounds really weird, but you know what I'm saying.
They're just amazing.
If you're on B2, well, B2 actually got a good spread of fish, but B1 they're nearly all the big, almost leathery
Simo
jobbies, and you're praying for one of them big ghosties in there, or a scatter scale 20 pound.
Yeah. So something different.
You can't halt it, mate.
No, you can't. But it's a mega place, and you've done really, really well on there. In terms of looking at things as a whole over the past, what are we talking? 30 years? We're talking more than 30 years.
I'm 60 now, and I caught my first carp when I was about 10.
Yeah, so we're talking definitely north of 30 years, mate. We won't say exactly how many, but industry-wise, probably still north of 30 years. When you look back at it, you've done various different things, but all to a very, very good level. We talked about versatility throughout the whole thing. Did you ever think that this would be your bread and butter? Did you ever think you'd do so many different aspects within the industry?
Do you know, Hassan, this is why I've never done a book.
Yeah.
I can't read fishing books not because I don't think they're any good. They are very good. They're everyone's story.
Yeah.
But because I live fishing, I don't want to read a book. I've got loads of books in my bookshelf, and I'll start flitting them and think, all right, I'll carry on with that later, and I'll never pick it up again. My like we said earlier, but if you imagine a spider's web, and every one of them points of contact with a branch is a different area in carp fishing or angling, that would be my life. Magazines, DVDs, shows, shops, Heathrow Bait Services, tutoring, filming. It's just, abroad. It's just crazy. And I know I never thought, when I started Heathrow, there was obviously a goal there. Let's earn a good living out of bait. And then obviously you come out of that and you go on a different level of tutoring and product development. I love product development. The company I'm with now, really, they encourage it. Yeah. Whereas I have worked for a couple of companies in the past that don't encourage it so much, because you're treading on other people's toes. But I'm not saying you tend to stay quiet in the meetings, but where I am now, and Rob's in the meeting, Alan Yates, there's like-minded 8 people.
Yeah.
And it's really lovely. But more importantly, the person that's meant to be taking notes is taking notes. So I love that product development side of it. You know, we have meetings every week on the phone, and I love it. You know, little FaceTime. Oh, there we go. I love all that, mate. But no, I didn't emphasise I'd ever earn and I do all right out of fishing. You know, I haven't accumulated millions like some have because I don't work. I haven't got my own company anymore, but I get a wage, and we're happy. And I, you know, support whoever I've got to support. I love it, mate. I can't imagine not going fishing and not be. You know, I'm 60 now. I still want to be earning money out of fishing when I'm 70. Yeah. I'll never lose my energy level. God forbid. You know, nothing comes around the corner. But and that's where it was. No, I mean, as a youngster, I was a greengrocer. I think that's where I got my gobbiness from. Yeah. Shouting about bananas and strawberries on Hounslow Street.
What strikes me is probably, and again, don't take this in a cheesy sort of trying to chat you up way. What strikes me is that you've gone through various different, like you say, bait ends, and then you pick something else up. Over the course of the amount of time you've been in the industry, it's very difficult for somebody who has gone through the changes that have happened, social media coming into play, the increased commercialisation of carp fishing. It's very difficult for everyone to roll with those changes. Normally there's been a drop-off point for various individuals. Yeah. But with you, your passion for it, your sort of ability to be able to not only angle, but also put that into a commercial aspect, which is what companies buy into, product development, things like that. You've rolled with those punches, you've embraced social media, and you're as relevant as you were back in the time when we were forming the carp industry. That, for me, it doesn't matter what industry, what walk of life, what sport, if you can maintain your relevance for that period of time, that is a true mark of achievement, mate. Yeah. There's no two ways about it.
I agree. I put it down, my energy level is other than Lee Morris, I think he's unequal. He drives me bloody mad. But other than Lee, I watch it, and I know the same as you. I know nearly everybody in our level of the business, should we call it, and I don't know anyone with the energy level I've got. Certainly at my age. Let's put it that way. You know, the guys that I know at my age are now big fish anglers, through and through. They're not doing the tutoring. They're not doing the shop days. And I don't like this. I never stop talking. I love fishing. I love carp fishing. I went sea fishing the other week.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
Mate,
But you like a bit of a species, pike and that.
Mate, I do. Not as much as I should, but I do it. But I even held up a thornback ray with a bag of monster tiger nut boilies. There you go. It's like, yeah, look at this, you know.
You didn't catch on a monster tiger nut boilie?
Whole bag. No, I didn't, mate. But it was, when I put the bag of bait on the boat, my mate Mark, who owns the boat, he said, go on, you'll see. And it's fun. Exactly that. Of course it's bloody fun. You know, Ray goes back, you can have them for when you go carp fishing. Yeah. But I would never lose my enthusiasm for. And I was so pleased to join the family I'm with now of the group of companies. I was so pleased to get that. Certainly, let's be right, at my age, you know, you're not near the start of your career. I'm being polite to myself. But I'm chuffed to bits of it, mate. They listen to us, the energy levels, they buy into it, and they're getting what they're paid for.
Mate, you deserve every bit of everything, mate. You're a brilliant bloke, top angler, and a gent, mate. Absolute gent. No other word for you. Before you go, and I'll let you stop talking. Yep. We've got some quick fire questions. You haven't seen these, mate.
I remember these last time.
These could be all sorts of
madness. All over the place, yeah.
I think I wrote these at like 2 a.m. yesterday,
drunk.
Mate. Obviously, no. Clearly. Never drunk, mate, me. Drunk on life.
Good.
Your favourite decade in carp fishing?
Oh, my God, probably the early 90s. Decade, yeah, but the early 90s. I learned most 90s. And met some amazing people that I'm still friends with.
One bait, one rig, one venue.
Pineapple pop-up.
Yeah.
Let's go for a you think I'm going to say Ronnie now, didn't you? Let's go for flick rig.
Go on, the flick rig.
Go on Raspberry one.
On Raspberry one, very nice. Syndicate or day ticket? You got to choose one.
I'd go day ticket.
The one thing you'd remove from carp fishing?
You are a sod, aren't you?
I'm not.
You are a sod.
And
that's not a swear word.
That's in
the Bible. Right, I'll tell you what is buckets.
Buckets?
Right, and let me explain briefly. I know it's quick fire. Buckets in swims ruin fishing, mate. It's on some of the lakes I fish, you've got 3 buckets behind you. It's just no. Lose buckets. Places like Wellerton and other syndicates that I know have lost buckets Frimley, and it works so smoothly. Buckets bring arguments.
Ban the bucket.
Ban the bucket, except for spotting.
Yeah. 3 3 people, past or present, you'd love to fish with.
God, I've got to say, if I say past, that's going to mean Ian again.
Yeah.
That's an obvious answer, and that's truly meant. I love fishing, although I don't really fish with Dave Levy because he's such a massive character, and you can never get through to him. You can never sort of mentally
chip away,
smash him up. And I'm going to say 2 people I like fishing with the most, and that's Mike Franklin and Matthew Grover. They're very close personal friends in my personal life, and I love them like brothers.
Happy days. Funniest thing you've seen on the bank?
You catching a comment at Farlow's when you was filming me.
Did you like that?
Funniest thing, mate. Do you know what? With funny things, I've had a million, but you can never bring one to mind. Jumping in a boat with some of these, catapulting me mate out the other end of it. Yeah, and the big 10-key bucket of spod mix. Matt come up with his glasses like that, right? And the spod mix, the big boat went whack, and it landed in. So that was, for me, it was funny because I'd leapt in the boat because I'd seen a fish, and I went, "Come on," like I do.
He's gone.
The boat went right over the edge. That was funny for me.
Poor lad.
Well, I had under my windscreen wipers, then I had his mobile phone in bits and all the £20 notes out of his wallet under my windscreen wipers drying out. He didn't think it was very funny, but I really did.
Only fish the margins or never fish the margins again?
I'd quite happily never fish them again because a lot of my fishing's 50-plus yards out anyway.
Carp you'd love to catch?
Cool. Right. Oh, poor blimey. Right, if there's one left in Rays, it'd be the Long Sutton.
The Long Sutton, yeah.
Yes.
Country and Western or drum and bass?
I'm old, mate. Come on. Yeehaw. Get your partner 1, 2, 3. Country and Western.
Nothing wrong with a bit of country and Western, mate. Last question. Date night with the missus or hit the lake on the end of a fresh southwesterly and a big pressure drop?
Take her with you.
Take her with you. Did she come, mate?
She'd bloody have to if it was a big southwesterly. So there you go. Take her with you.
I love that. Ian, thank you so much. Everybody watching and listening, thank you so much for listening and watching. Please feel free to subscribe and leave us a review. Mr. Russell, hopefully I'll see you very soon for some fishing over the winter, mate. We need to get out. It's been far too long, but thank you so much for your time, mate. You're an absolute legend.
Thank you for asking. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Cheers, Hassan.